the Sensephere channel. And now some chilled discussion after the week's angst, with the Doctor Who Detox Hour, or two.
Can we get rid of them? My God, the noise of them. Did you hear them? My God, they are noisy. So, welcome one and all. It's that time already. It's the Down Under Detoxers here to dilute your Doctor Who woes and worries. The week went really fast, I found. I really did. It's a bit timey wimey, isn't it? The older you get. Just... Anyway, there's more news on the Christmas episode. Stephen Moffat has been musing on all things Who. Location shoot leaks. Every stream's talked about them, but we've got our Tupperworth to put in. Shooty changing the arrangements about his autographs at ComicCon. That was an interesting one, wasn't it? It tells you a few little things that's going on out there in fandom. But we need to calm the nerves and the tension with some classic items, some surprising items. Oh, yes. Memories of when it all seemed so much more straightforward watching TV and Doctor Who. Do you watch TV now? So it's a delectable, delightful, dreamy Doctor Who detox today. So hide from the boss if you're in the UK or about to in America. Take an early lunch. That's for the Brits. Tuck up on your settee in Aussie. Wherever you are, we are for you. The Detox Hour or two starts now. Here we go. Well, let's get Cybermat Strikes on, Dan. Let's have a look. Let's kind of find him here in the ether. There he is. Hello. How are you?
G'day, Brendan. How are you going?
Good.
Ready for some detox action?
Well, yes. And you know me, sometimes I kind of don't take the pill very well and I end up getting kind of toxified.
Oh, no. It comes around quickly, but it's been a good week. Bit of Doctor Who here and there.
Well, our first item is now always the ups and downs of that time rota, so I'll ask you that in a moment. But as you know, we always have a problem with Dougie, Boomer Doug. There's always a technical issue. Let's just check whether it's working. Do you think it'll work this week, Dan, if I can get through that time, Eddie?
Oh, we might have to. You might have to play the clip.
I know. I might have to. Let's just see. Dougie, are you there? Yay, he's there. Hey. How does it happen? It's amazing.
True. It took me 4 attempts to get on the link tonight, so we know this is just me. I'm cursed. Hello, everybody.
Hello. Well, you see, I think by making that kind of little segment, we kind of placate the gremlins out there.
You can't be Boomer Doug if you're not boomering it.
Every week, folks, I ask people to, when I invite people on my Gmail to you be a panelist, come on, I'm one of those where we're not professionals. We just do this out of as a hobby, out of love for talking about the media and Doctor Who and that. And I like that kind of vibe. I don't network, all of us are just normal, bog standard fans, aren't we, really? And
yes, we are.
And so, of
fans,
course,
not critics.
And so, of course, the snag with that is, for all of us, is we're just ahead of the technology. We're just still learning. So
you might be.
Things, yeah. So things can go wrong. And that's the beauty of it. Don't we all like a program on TV when something happens? Don't we love the blooper shows?
Oh. We just got to fake it till we make it, Brendan. That's all.
Oh, yeah.
That's it.
That's the name of the
I am a
game.
blooper.
So it's the ups and downs of the week, and I've been tinkering with my time rotor. Excuse me. I've been tinkering with the time
Ooh-ah.
rotor, and so so here we go. As we start our detox, here's the start of the good and the bad of the week. So here we go.
I love that.
Yeah, my little dodgy time rotor there. So
Nothing worse than a dodgy time rotor.
it always takes me back to season 17? It was one of those episodes, I think it was Horns of Nymon, possibly, when it just got too ridiculous with Tom Baker. He had all these gadgets on top of the time rotor. You had all that slapstick kind of sound effect of things going wrong, cartoon. And I just thought you've pushed Doctor Who's humor to the boundary. Hated that scene. Well, so I'm going to remind you of every time we do that. So Dan, ups and downs of your Doctor Who week.
Well, I've still been pushing through on the on my 25 season 25 box set, so that's been really, really enjoyable. Just the quality of those box sets, I thoroughly recommend them to anyone who's. To be honest, I'd grab them now anyway. I'd recommend anyone grab them because, as we know, you never know when some of your favorite episodes are going to get pulled off streaming services, which is what we've been seeing.
Well, yeah, and when I talked to Matrix Lord in our Sunday show, I mean, I say I know nobody. I don't seek out anybody. I don't network. I'm quite proud of not networking because I just play the objective game. You say what you see. I don't owe any favors. So it's interesting. But Matrix Lord actually said, if he did have some inside knowledge, that, that these negotiations over rights are possibly to do with the fact that Disney are wanting to get the back catalogue, which made sense. And that was my objective hunch, just educated guess before then. So that's interesting. So where you're up to exactly, did you say, with the Blu-ray sets at the moment?
Well, funnily enough, I've watched all the special editions now, and I'm just starting to work through interviews and things. So I watched a really nice one on Dursley.
Yeah.
That was a really interesting. I didn't have any idea of the backstory there. I certainly didn't realize what a profound impact it had on Russell T Davies.
I've heard that the Dursley, I think he died at 29, didn't he, of AIDS complications. And I think, yes, I haven't opened the box set yet at all. I'm too busy sorting these streams out at the moment. But yeah, I've heard that some fans have found it quite upsetting to watch. It's quite sad. It would be sad. It's somebody dying very young.
What was really interesting was that through the course of over the course of the interviews was that obviously RTD had looked up to Dursley, but had been too cool for school and hadn't talked about Dursley's Doctor Who fandom. And apparently he was a massive Doctor Who fan. Oh. And that's what he'd actually asked to be put into Doctor Who. And it was almost, it's one of those things where, you really should just talk to people, and it's something I suppose with Dwayne and, when you meet your doctors and your other actors and things, that you should just talk to them because you might learn. He'd never sort of talked to Dursley about his fandom.
Yeah. And good to see people in the thread. Tell us your ups and downs of the week. It is a detox after all, and I will look at them in a moment once I've talked to Doug too. My last bit of fresh Doctor Who was seeing Colin Baker looking at some photographs that were taken for his title sequence in December 1983. Ah, gosh. takes us back. Divine and Dragon, getting ready for school, very smart. Disney wanting the back catalogue is a smart strategy. Well, I mean, if you want subscribers to stay with your channel, I mean, I'm not defending Disney and I'm not into Disney, but that's business strategy for you, isn't it? Doug, an up and down of your week on Doctor Who?
I feel like a fake fan. I haven't done a lot of Doctor Whoing this week. As you know, it's been a pretty crazy week for me. But I have been revisiting the Paul McGann TV movie. I just decided to watch it on a whim to cheer me up. I really enjoy it. I know it gets a lot of flack, but I would have loved to see him do a full series. But then I guess we can't change time. No real downs, no Doctor Who downs really. But the Paul McGann movie was definitely an up for me. It's a good little bit of entertainment. I really enjoy it.
Well, I mean, I was thinking, right, okay. If you want an up or a down, this was a surprise out the blue for me. Okay, so if I just set it up, let me just have a look. Let's have a look. Well, first of all, I don't know if this is good or bad. Look at this one. There's an up or down. This is in a train station in Swansea. Look what they've done to that. I mean, that looks quite offensive to me. I don't know. What is that?
I had to get closer to the screen. It looked very offensive where I was sitting.
Yeah, I know. I find as though Doctor Who's just kept becoming this kind of little thing that's kind of tucked in a corner now. But this cheered me up. This cheered me up. Look at that. That's the Dalek scared of the new Doctor twerking in front of it. It's shy. Very shy Dalek. We couldn't back. The BBC's cutting back. This is what happens to cross-cutting.
I couldn't afford the middle bit.
Oh God, doesn't look the same, does it?
Not quite as scary, no.
I think that's the definite. That is a kind of the living definition of a shy Dalek, though. Look at that.
Yeah, definitely.
Oh, there's always one. There's always one in a class, isn't there? You know, you get the loud mouths, you get the bullies, and there's a little shy kid in the corner. Look. So there you go, the shy Dalek. But because we're in these emotionally kind of, you know, beautiful times, 2024, and RTD's right on it because these are dark times for people. So he writes a very strange Doctor. Maybe we're going to get things like this where you get Daleks who have real emotions and are doubting their, you know, in Britain, we have to talk about reparations and the slave trade and the British Empire. Maybe the Daleks have to have some lessons on what they are. Or maybe we've just had the general election in America. Maybe all the Daleks have to sit down and watch Donald Trump because that's apparently what that is.
Oh, no. Yeah, don't get us going down that track.
Well, it was fun, wasn't it? I mean, when you watch Joe Biden sit down with Donald Trump smiling, and yet a week earlier they were saying he was, you know, the devil incarnate. So it's kind of somebody's telling porkies.
Yeah, no, we haven't seen him look so happy for a while.
Anyway, this really cheered me up, and your Aussies here. So let me show you this.
Okay.
It's a postcard. Now that postcard of old Sydney as was, and it's
that looks really old.
Yes, it's an old shot. Now, Michael Herbert, the Malcolm Hulke biographer, showed me this, and I said, I've got to have this on the Doctor Who Detox with the Aussies, because this was sent, this postcard from Australia by Malcolm Hulke. And it was and so if I just go big screen so everybody can see it, 1968, January, Malcolm Hulke, you know, he hasn't done the Sea Devils yet. He hasn't done Colony in Space yet. Hasn't even done the War Games yet. And he's writing from Sydney. This is actually the view from my executive suite. Got his windows shut high up. The Who, the Small Faces, and Paul Jones are all staying in this hotel. They still have that pale English winter look, which I lost last week, 1,000 miles from here, in the blazing outback. Private plane, of course. We start shooting next week. Films, kangaroos, and possibly people. Love, Malcolm Hulke. Hey, what do you think of that?
Wow. So who is this to?
Mr. and Mrs. Harvey. So,
Okay.
Okay, well known.
now, so there you go. Good old Malcolm Hulke, one of our great Doctor Who writers, and he knew how to dovetail politics into Doctor Who. But there you go. Let's just show you one more time. Old-fashioned Sydney from the other side before the Sydney Opera House was built. It would have been on the far side from that shot because this is where the fairground is, isn't it? So this is North Shore.
Yeah.
So basically, that's Sydney before the famous Opera House, and Malcolm Hulke sends a beautiful The Who, Small Faces, Paul Jones. Wow.
I know, that's what I was spinning out about, not the View, the Who. Oh, they're fantastic.
Yeah, those were the times. And
Hotel.
now he says he was filming in the Outback. Now, does anyone? Yeah, I'll show you. I've never heard of it. Do you know about this? Whobinder.
I've never heard of that.
it. I've never seen it. I've heard of it.
And that's why Malcolm Hulke came back to do the War Games. No, but
Probably.
Wow. I was going to say it's too early for Skippy.
yeah. So I think some of us when we just want to go looking on YouTube and going looking for stuff. I think we all need to have a good look
Actually,
at.
it was after Skippy. This
Is
really dates me, but when we came to Australia in 1966, Skippy was already on. So I'm thinking it might have been made by the same people, and maybe it was a failure or something. I've definitely heard the name though.
Whobinder. Mind you, it sounds a bit Who-ish. Whobinder.
They look like nice little Land Rovers though, so there's a British link there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Change one letter, then you've got Whokinder. I don't know. So yes, so it's about an animal doctor, but of course, oh God, can you imagine being a writer then? No, you're from Britain, you go all the way to Australia, you're in the Outback, private plane, sharing a hotel with the Who. Whoa.
I can tell you now, being in the Outback in those old Land Rovers in 50-degree heat would be bloody oppressive. That'd be really hot.
Yeah, it wouldn't be fun.
Yeah.
Wouldn't be
Anyway,
fun.
this is our ups and downs of the week, and do throw it more in Dan and Doug and the thread, who I'm going to come to in a minute. Highs and lows of the week in Doctor Who terms. Of course, Dwayne is not on our panel today because he's busy. He's busy looking after Sylvester and Janet. And I've just been keeping an eye on some of the photographs of their event. And yes, they're doing what you'd expect them to do. I mean, I keep talking about Dwas this year. And of course, Sylvester and Janet, in this case, running up and down, looking after their own mic and sound. And look, he's 80. He can be 85. He can be 90. I think Sylvester McCoy will not slow down.
No, good on him.
No, it's great. It's great. I also like that that idea that he wants to get in and amongst the crowd. He doesn't want to kind of sit up on high, lording it over like you get the impression some do.
Oh, he's going to have his hands full.
Yes, well, and there he is at the Palace Theatre outside. He said he was there many, many years ago. Now, Divine and Dragon's been doing research for us because since the Aussies didn't know about this Aussie program, he says, Animal Doctor New South Wales children's show, 39 episodes in 1969.
Okay.
Yeah, there you go.
DD, what do you not know? God.
I know. He's gone straight onto the computer, I think.
Yeah, he's cheated. He's gone on Wikipedia or something, hasn't he?
Now, Anthony Parkinson says this. Did I read a recent rumour right? Tovey getting it on with a Sea Devil in a spin-off. Anthony Parkinson, I've read the same stuff. So is that an up or... Anthony, is that an up or down? It's a down for me because this is what I feared. And if you go back to one of my first streams on the risk of the Sea Devil spin-off, I was straight in there saying my fear about that is that, number one, you might change what they look like. They always want to make them look humanoid now. And we are going to talk about that in a moment, that shot. But the other thing is, you're going to have female Sea Devils because you have to in 2024. And as soon as you have female Sea Devils with male Sea Devils, and then you have a human being, they're going to get the rocks off. You just know this nonsense is going to happen because the same message will be that we're in a multicultural world. So why wouldn't you fancy a Sea Devil? Why wouldn't you want to go to bed with a reptile?
He's trying to outdo Moffat.
Yeah. I mean, all of a sudden we're Captain Birdseye, It's
You know what bothers me is that I read and heard the same rumors, and you know what? I didn't disbelieve it. I was just like, yeah, of course they are. I mean, why wouldn't they?
Yeah.
I mean, that's why because the whole time I've been asking myself, why make this spin-off? Like, someone said before, wish we had more McGann. When we had the Hooniverse, I thought for sure we were going to end up with, some Eighth Doctor Chronicles or something, because you've got stories already made that are fit for screen.
Absolutely.
And it's like every fan wants to see some Paul McGann. So what do we do? No, we make a spin-off about something that we've probably sort of seen before. I mean, it should be a good Doctor Who episode.
And what is it? Science fiction writers are not wanting, they are embarrassed by science fiction. Science fiction writers, apparently, are wanting to write soap opera. As soon as they get hold of a sea devil, they're going, oh, we could have a female sea devil. That's never been done. And we could have a cross-race marriage. Oh, and they've done it in, I just don't know. What is it about science fiction franchises where we have to get down and dirty? It's like sci-fi, soap opera. Why can't we just have good old Buck Rogers, Flash Gordon, like in the 1930s, and they just go and do adventure, for God's sake?
Go and fight monsters,
and
fight bad guys, and use lasers and stuff. Yeah, keep it simple.
Well,
so
of course, RTD's going to want to do something with people humping.
Well, can I just say this is our detox, and Anthony Parkinson, you've got us now toxed up. Yeah, we're not helping each other. This is supposed to be a collective detox. But I suppose
I'm getting it out.
Yeah,
I'm putting it out in the universe.
Yeah. It's a bit like Alcoholics Anonymous. We all have to sit here and just say something, that you couldn't help it. So I suppose, Anthony Parkinson, you've lanced that boil. Trouble is, I'm going to show you the pictures in a minute. SG, I keep seeing videos about a Sea Devil spin-off. Yeah, I know.
I don't want to see Silurians doing it. You don't know. Are they Sea Devils or everything I've seen doesn't look Sea Devil.
Well, we'll talk about that. We'll look at the shots and we'll have a nice chat about that. Divine and Dragon referring to my comment about people standing piously on high. Anthony Parkinson's come back in and he's now toxing me more. Russell Tovey and a male Sea Devil. Could be a non-binary Sea Devil. I mean, it could be. Oh God. So
I'm sure it's going to be.
They're probably not allowed to call them Sea Devils anymore. It's
She-Devil.
She-Devil.
The life and loves of a She-Devil. I said it here first. Someone will get too frisky with an alligator, says Divine and Dragon. They've got teeth. Honestly, it just look, you can do your multicultural kind of plot, but don't have us, shagging a Sea Devil. I mean, please. I mean, no. I mean, who wants to go to bed with a reptile in a string vest? I mean, it's just,
they're not mammals, are they? So wouldn't they lay eggs? I don't know.
Oh, yes, they do lay eggs because they did it in that little trailer. Remember the one with Joe Grant and the?
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and then Russell Tovey finds out that the mother has to feed the male to the babies or something.
Oh, do you know, Anthony Parkinson, wash your mouth out. You've just toxed us up. But we are gonna look at that photograph, as everybody would expect us to. But yes, I agree with your comment though, Anthony. Writing soap is easy. Writing good science fiction is hard. I won't. Soap opera is a gift in itself because I think it's because of the number. It's on an industrial scale. Neighbours over your place. 5 times a week. I mean, you're churning it out, and I think there's a certain talent there to keep everybody sucked in. However, science fiction is high level concept if it's proper sci-fi, and I think it's hard because not everybody can think of a concept. Everybody can think of some issue that every family faces. Divine and Dragon, who's not gone to work yet. Well, I can picture the trans issue with Sea Devils as one. I'm going to have a word with your headmaster. Reese Roder, that would give me a reptile dysfunction. Very well done, Reese Roder. That's very well done. That's good. That's very good. And Leapshin says Star Trek did it first. Yes. You see, I used to love the original series of Star Trek when I was a kid, watching it at 7 p.m.-ish in Britain. And I'm sure you saw them, whatever. But when you saw Captain Kirk and Spock and all them in the original run, you still had those episodes with Joan Collins, and there was a love interest. And I remember being a kid going, "Oh God, oh, Captain Kirk's kissing another woman. Oh God," and you just wanted action. You wanted action.
Yeah,
so
Captain Kirk and his flying drop kicks. I remember those.
Yes.
Or the stuntman. I don't know if it was him or the stuntman. I love those.
So on the other front, here's another cheer up, everybody. It depends what you're doing. You heard from Dan what he's watching at the moment. I haven't got anywhere near Sylvester McCoy's box set, but I have been watching the Silurians again. So me and Jamie have been ploughing through the Silurians. We've watched 5 episodes, and the music's fascinating. What's it called? It's like a vuvuzela or something. It goes do 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 do. And there's a little kind of strange instrument which just adds to this kind of effect that they're very ancient. You've got Unit, you've got Nida in it, of course, Peter Miles. You've got Fulton Mackay, who surprised me, just being in it for 4 episodes before he dies. Do you know what me and Jamie said, though? We felt that actually Liz Shaw was misserved. I don't know why they got rid of her, I actually think she was better for the John Pertwee Doctor than John Pertwee thinks.
So did I, but I'm wondering whether John Pertwee had something to do with it. I thought she was great.
I thought wasn't she hiding the fact that she was pregnant as well at the time?
Oh,
yeah, I think
that as well. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I remember listening to her in an interview saying, I think it was in Ambassadors of Death, which they were doing those stunts on the river, and she was having to hide her condition.
Yeah. Well, look at that stunt. Look at that tail action there.
That's impressive.
Yeah. I mean, I suppose what we should be thinking now is that monster could come back, but you have a relationship with it because everybody's emotional nowadays. I mean, that monster's got feelings, and
it has. I can tell.
Yeah.
looks better than the Merca.
Actually, I'm very sorry about this. I apologize to everybody who's watching. This is actually one of the cut scenes that was a sex scene, because that man is not holding his tail. I'm sorry. That's called a chat up line. So.
Oh, okay. Maybe for you, not for me.
Yeah, but this is what I mean. You look back at these and you're going, it's a monster and it's Doctor Who and it's scary and it's this and that. Now you have to go, I wonder what he's thinking. Wonder what his emotions are. I wonder if we should bring that out, because our writers now, Stephen Moffat particularly and RTD, both of them seem to think, but what are they thinking? We need to empathize with the dinosaur. I mean, look at the snot monster, the bogeyman in Space Babies. Oh, I can't kill you because you're a big bogey. And you're the first big bogey. Oh, for God's sake. So what are we doing? Telling little kids when you pick your nose, save your bogies. I mean, honestly, what is it all about?
Feelings. It's got feelings.
A bogey's got feelings. You see, this is beyond me. Is that a high art science fiction concept, that bogies have feelings?
Yeah.
Oh, well.
I don't want to sit here pondering the boogie.
Honestly, no wonder John Pertwee looks scared. He's seen the future. I mean, I love going onto the Facebook group, you know it. Photo research group. See the photographs that you never normally see. I love them. Rick Storm.
I love those. Yeah.
The leaked photo looks more like oh yes. Rick Storm. We're coming to it. Yes, the Atlantean from the Underwater Menace. Yes. So save yourself. Leapshin agrees. Carolyn John was stunning. Jeffrey Palmer too, says Lisa. Yeah, Jeffrey Palmer. you know, he was also in Voyage of the Damned, wasn't he? Didn't he come back in Voyage of the Damned?
Great actor.
Which obviously we saw a tiny bit of because we're going to talk about Time Crash. Yeah, Carolyn John was pregnant but was dreading telling Barry Letts, but he had decided to replace her anyway. Hard times actually for women, to be honest, because yes, if you're pregnant, it was a bit risky in some jobs, wasn't it? And it's that's unfortunate. But I just think if you watch their on-screen chemistry, and actually the doctor had somebody who didn't know all the answers, but could actually shortcut a few things because she could actually do a lot. And it was better than saying, go and make a cup of tea. So she was ahead of her time. And it was a shame, really, because actually John Pertwee's doctor looks good with her.
Yeah. And I really liked the Badley Shaw in Inferno.
Yeah.
I love Inferno.
She did it for me.
Oh, here we go. The burgeoning of the... So SG, yes, Carolyn John was pregnant but was dreading to... do you know I've turned into BBC Two who does repeats? Anthony Parkinson, no mention of Doctor Who in the Disney earnings call yesterday. Not that I was really expecting it, considering how badly it's done. If it had been a hit, I dare say he would have. Yes, I know. Anthony Parkinson, I think he really wants us to be toxed up and get our worries up. Yeah, this is another great location shot, by the way, on our ups of Doctor Who, where they're all just having lunch, actually. Obviously, this is before or after they did the attack on Liz Shaw in the barn, but it's great, isn't it? Look at that, just all sat around. Fulton Mackay brought his dog, just looks like... Look at that, Jeffrey Palmer, Peter Miles... I can't help watching him though and thinking it's neither. It's neither.
Yeah, or Whitaker.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to say hello to one of our panelists. You know, Rachel. She's been away. She's had a really good trip. She's a bit under the weather, so please, everybody, say hi to Rachel. I'll be trying to get her on as fast as I can. But basically, we've got to look after her as well because she's had a long journey and just feeling a little bit. Divine and Dragon. I did like Dr. Shaw because she was strong, intelligent, had agency, and was lovely to watch. And may I say, Divine and Dragon, it was 1970. So all this waffle about DI and representation, Doctor Who was pushing the boundaries a long time ago. And it's Carmen Munro's
strong woman.
It's Carmen Munro's 92nd birthday. Now she was in, was it The Ice Warriors? Lovely black actress. And Doctor Who, pushing the boundaries, shooty. It's nothing new. It's nothing new.
Absolutely.
Sidney Poitier, To Say With Love. Hello, have you heard of it?
Now you're talking.
Yeah, I know. I just sometimes I just wonder what people are talking about. I'm going to show that Silurian. I am going to show that Silurian because there's a reason for that, of course, because we will be talking about the Christmas trailer has been mentioned by Stephen Moffat, and tonight on Children in Need, they will show more about it. So I don't think he's going to look like that, as we know. I think
that's a Warrior of the Deep Silurian, isn't it? Warriors of the Deep. Yeah, that's an 80s Silurian, isn't it?
No, that's the actual original Silurian.
That's the original one?
Yeah. They looked a bit like a cow in a way, their eyes and that. But so that's our ups and downs of Doctor Who. I don't know if that made you feel any better or worse. Anthony Parkinson obviously wants us to feel worse, but I think just to kind of make us feel a bit better, let's just do that effect again. I think
that's good.
I think the 1950s retro sound effect of a spaceship actually makes me feel good. That gets me going.
Yeah.
Simon Anthony's another one who'll be joining us. I'm planning on being contrary. Old Sci-Fi was incredibly sexist. We men just didn't notice at the time. Now, Simon Anthony is playing a part here, folks. Don't pile drive him. When I get him on, he'll be the contrarian. So please, he's given us debate here. I appreciate it. But yes, I know what you're saying as well. Let's be honest. There's a lot of them. And Rachel, who's been on our channel many, many times, will point out quite rightly when there's an episode where it's all men. She will. Yeah. Women just
Absolutely.
twist. Yeah.
Yes, it was.
Women just twisted their ankles and screamed. Men were all redneck sports freaks, not Doctor Who.
But they
Yes.
look good doing it, though.
Mind you did have a lot of women spraying their ankles, but you also had Adric do that in Visitation. So I mean, so there's equality.
Yeah,
for
I
it.
didn't. No.
Yes, I know. So, right, just to warm the cockles a little bit more, though. Let's have a look. Let's just take you a bit further. Did anyone used to look at this? I mean, I know probably not you, Dan, but TV comic. Do you remember that, Boomer Doug?
That's my favourite. Oh, you've just brought back memories. That's my favourite comic. I actually remember that comic strip. The assistants, or the companions, assistants as they were then called, they were actually two kids, weren't they? They weren't part of the series. It was something to do with rights issues or something. I love those.
Yeah, but and I have to say, the drawings were great. They
were.
I mean,
they were.
To be honest, I don't know what I wish I knew my timings, but I felt as though the TV comic and seeing great Doctor Who little mini adventures like this, they actually filled the gap between when it wasn't on TV sometimes, and actually they fired up the imagination, because of course comic strip can do stuff that the program couldn't do. Always the case.
Absolutely.
But no, I thought, look, it is a detox. Our job is to cheer ourselves up, and there's different ways of doing it. And just remind that. Now, another one, I asked the panel, and if everybody in the thread can recall, because it's Children in Need today, and there is this kind of link now, association with Doctor Who, way back to Five Doctors, etc. You know, Time Crash. Now, you know, Doug and Dan, you've looked at Time Crash again. When I look back, I just think they knew how to do it then. I got it warmed me up to see, but there were one or two things in there from Stephen Moffat's writing where I thought, oh God, this is where the start was. But what was your overall view, Dan, of Time Crash when you saw it again?
Oh, look, you can definitely see the Moffatisms in it, but look, it's written with so much affection. So, you know, it's really, I found it a really moving tribute to the Fifth Doctor, and obviously everyone involved in recreating that. And I think apart from School Reunion, it was also pretty much the only sort of backward-looking Doctor Who event at this point in the new series run, wasn't it, really?
Yeah. Well, yeah, because it was high risk to do that. And I actually thought RTD had his instincts correct, which is just keep pushing forward. I mean, the Daleks was, I suppose, the retrospective bit. But yeah, you keep, I mean, I actually think that's what they should be doing now. Just keep plowing forward, establish the show again. So Doug, I know you responded quickly when you'd seen a bit of it. What was your thoughts?
I really enjoyed it. I mean, I enjoyed it the first time around. The funny thing was, the first time around, I thought, oh, Peter Davison looks a bit old. But now looking at it, he's actually younger than me there now. And he actually fills the costume really well. I think do you know what? He could have made, he could have been Doctor Who again. He could have had his own little spin-off series. He looks the part. He looks like he was having fun doing it. And I think he was. I saw some of the behind-the-scenes stuff. And he was really chuffed to be doing it again. I think this was before he was David Tennant's father-in-law, though, wasn't it?
I think it was just. I think they would have hooked up.
I don't think it met. Yeah, I think they might have, because she was Doctor's daughter, wasn't she? I don't know if that's where they hooked up, but it's obviously
and of course, because he obviously dated the girl in the fireplace as well before then. So yes, it's not there yet. Yes, but
he was a pants man, wasn't he?
But you can tell, Doug, that it was before it was his official father-in-law, because he's even given a line to go on about his bald patch. And I don't.
Yeah, that was clever. I enjoyed that.
But I'll say something to the contrary. I'm going to turn into Simon Anthony here. There's something about Doctor Who's writings since it's been New Who, and it's both Moffat and RTD. They have a go at skinniness, being thin, being bald. Fat shaming is illegal, apparently, in this 2024 world, but you can thin shame like the hell. You can bald shame all you want. Now, I've got a sense of humor, Doug, but I just think, but it seems to be this sense of humor button is switched on and off. Depends who you are and what you do.
It's a good point, actually. Yeah, it's very selective, isn't it?
Yeah, because in Star Beast, Donna Noble has a line about him being thin and wearing those trousers, and there's an obsession with David Tennant being skinny, and I'm thinking,
Wasn't it?
He is very skinny, though.
Yeah, but
Yeah, he was.
The thing is, Dan, you know, as a teacher and as a 2024 world citizen, we're being taught that you aren't allowed to really identify anything about somebody's physique, so you don't offend them. And yet, Moffat and RTD are pile driving baldness, being thin. I love Time Crash, but when I watch that, I keep thinking, do you know what? It's like people who do one thing and then do the other. It's like, you know, they get away with murder. Rachel here says, for Children Need Minisode, I thought it was great at the time. Even now to this day, it's one of the better New Who ones. I do agree. And as Dan said, it's got lovely warmth to it. It's a lovely little tribute to Peter Davison, without it being sickly or anything. It was. Yeah.
You know what? You know what though? This isn't the ultimate Doctor Who Children in Need. The Curse of the Fatal Death by Stephen Moffat is even more epic. I was just watching it tonight.
Yes.
After Time Crash, and man, it's so good that they did that now.
Do you know? Right,
but I really love it.
Right, I'm going to ask everybody in the thread. We're talking about Time Crash, Children Need specials. Now, the comic relief one was Curse of Fatal Death that Dan's just mentioned. I haven't got photographs, but we can certainly talk about it. I want to ask you about that, though. That was obviously written by Stephen Moffat as well. He's written the Christmas episode. We'll be talking about that in a moment. When you watch it, I know it's for comic relief. I've got to keep reminding myself it was to be funny. It's a parody. And actually, if you're going to have somebody doing a parody of you, it's a compliment. So, but within the writing, Dan and Doug, I could see Stephen Moffat tropes that are going to come out in the actual series.
Yeah, and he does. He circles back numerous times, even in Time Crash and through his run. He reuses a lot of the jokes. In there, but I was trying to work out when is it parody and when is it actually pioneering something that's going to happen, because we had the gender bending. We had Joanna Lumley, lovely Joanna Lumley, and I know it had been a joke. I mean, she was gorgeous in Curse of Fatal Death. I'm trying to get where the humor is and where the parody is and where the kind of hint of the future is, because the jokey news item had been it might be Joanna Lumley after Tom Baker. You know, Tom Baker's, you know, they were joking around. And Joanna Lumley has always been mentioned. So, of course, to have her in a parody makes sense. I get that. But, of course, obviously... Every time you just, you know, you chip away, don't you? It's a bit like Heaven Sent. Chip away at that wall, and eventually you'll break through, Peter Capaldi. You'll get through one day, just once the sun's finished. So you keep you keep chipping away, and then you change the program. And it seems to me Stephen Moffat and RTD have chipped away at this emotional doctor. The doctor can be a woman, and they have chipped away at something that was, I thought it was a joke after Tom Baker. And then, voila, you get it. Yeah, I think the jokes. I mean, I personally enjoy Curse of the Fatal Death and Time Crash. So, to me, Curse of the Fatal Death is, you could just feel that it's Stephen Moffat, you know, dying to prove that he gets Doctor Who, but also sort of relishing the opportunity. He's got all these famous stars, and he's got Richard Curtis there directing, and I mean, man. I mean, I don't think they've had a lineup as good as that in current Doctor Who.
And it was great because you got the radiophonic album clips of Rories of the Deep and Five Doctors. You got all these little bits that you were recognizing, weren't you? I was going, oh, that bit's from that, and that bit's from that. The Daleks.
I was thinking that tonight. We need to get someone to go through and actually lay out it where they've pinched each bit from.
The Daleks looked like the Bobble Daleks, when they were en masse. But just
speaking of your Time Raiders, the Time Raiders in the TARDIS in The Curse of Fatal Death, man, they look like they're about to fly out of the console and hit them in the face.
Yes, I loved all that. I mean, come on, it was a parody. I love this because they do it in Doctor Who, and they did do it with Pertwee and the Master a little bit. I'm going to get you, and I have to say, the thing that made me laugh the most from The Curse of Fatal Death was. Well, there were a few bits I have to say because running down the same bit of corridor umpteen times was done in Doctor Who, as you know. And when Julia Sarala said, "Everything looks the same," and then but every time he kept getting knocked down that chute, and he kept coming back, and that other bit of dialogue, which is classic Doctor Who timey wimey nonsense, which was always a cheat, was I actually went back earlier, and I went back earlier than you're early. And oh gosh, you think, yeah, exactly. Because the Doctor Who stories make no sense if you have got a time machine, you just go back, don't you? You just go back.
Yeah.
So, and of course,
Jonathan Pryce. Yeah.
and the classic one with when the companion says, "But why does that work?" And he goes, "I'll explain later." And it's just, absolutely classic. So Paul Richards has asked this, and I've seen it. 2 comments from Paul. Hiya, Paul. Peter Davison's performance was great, but Tenant is so over the top and annoying.
Agreed.
That's one thing
That's the start of the hyperactive Doctor that sort of blended, turned up in Matt Smith's era as well. And to me, it's the trait that Jodie and Shooty, they've all sort of latched onto that. And the Doctor was never like that right up until
he wasn't.
David Tennant started it, and Matt Smith really adopted it.
Yes.
And then everyone's copied it since. And it's like, that's why I loved it when John Hurt turned up and was like back to old school Doctor, measured, calm, methodical.
I know you can see, and look, I wasn't able to be warned what would happen, but now having come out the other side, David Tennant does have this uncanny knack of going like. So Peter Davison's Doctor just looks very kind of within himself. He looks calm, and he does his little squeaky voice when he gets a bit excited. He does everything Peter Davison that he's supposed to. But the David Tennant, he was like a craving fan, wasn't he? And I just thought, I don't know. It's this manic quality that we seem to like in sci-fi. Sci-fi now has to have soap opera, and sci-fi now has to be manic.
I didn't like it. I didn't like a lot of David Tennant stuff, if I'm honest.
No, although can I just say,
great, but he bugged me.
Gillian Said, yes, it's good call out. Loved Joanna Lumley and her etheric beam locators. And Jonathan Pryce had a good pair as well.
Jonathan Pryce. Love Jonathan Pryce.
It was funny. Well done, Stephen Moffat, on that. And a parody is a parody. It's just I do seem to think there were a few things there that might be a bit worrying.
That's that's a big miss, really. Why hasn't Jonathan Pryce come back to Doctor Who at some stage real in the last 20 years?
When he keeps getting knocked down into the sewage. I mean, he's So Pio Historican just touched down in Adelaide. Good day, fellas. Hello. Well, good to you. So we've got
Pure Historical.
We've got Sydney. We've got you're Adelaide, really, aren't you, Boomer Doug?
I'm Adelaide.
Yeah. So Adelaide. We normally have Tasmania mentioned. I'm looking for our friends in Tassie, not turned up yet. But hiya, Paul Baker. Good to see you. SG, wasn't Price in the Paradise of Death too? We're having an argument with Gillian Saeed about who had the best etheric beam locators. Take your choice. David Hardin's back. That timey-wimey stuff. Now, good point, because that was what I was going to bring up with the lads. This was when you got the first bit of dialogue about the timey-wimey, and I suppose done once, but it's become an almost pathetic. Do you know what? Has Doug, has civilization been infantilized? Because in 1972, 1973, we had the Blinovitch limitation effect, and now we have timey-wimey dialogue.
Well, I think you just said it all. I'm over it. I must admit, it was funny once, and I think once was enough. I mean, it's become a catchphrase now that I detest, if I'm honest. So,
yeah, I think
it's
dumbing.
Intelligent writing, shall we?
Yeah, it's dumbing down.
Please.
It can be clever. It can be clever as a one-off. One thing I would say was clever, and I do think it's a clever throwaway line, because the TARDIS as a concept makes no sense. But to say the desktop theme is coral, I thought that was a clever touch.
Yeah, that was clever.
Yeah, it was good for the headcanon, because I must admit, this is a sort of thing where, as a fan, I'm like, how does Peter Davison know how to operate that console, because he's never seen it before? Those sorts of things.
Yeah.
It's like, it's just the
one.
desktop theme that's changed. Everything else is the same. Okay, that settles that then.
Well, Lisa here. Sorry, I had David Hardin up, and I apologize. Didn't read out your whole statement. Look at Christmas Carol. Loads of timey-wimey stuff. Using the TARDIS. He is clever at that. He's a clever writer, Stephen Moffat. Lots of respect. Very complicated sometimes. Sometimes too complicated. Sometimes a little too contrived. A little bit too Sherlock. Clever ass. Lisa.
No resolution.
Yeah. Peter
Davis.
Oh,
sorry.
No, sorry. Lisa.
Peter
Davison's calling Tenant a grinning idiot who just comments on everything that happens to be in front of him. Just sums up modern Doctor Who in a nutshell. Sorry, Dan.
And his son-in-law, or soon to be.
Well, yeah.
But, hey, if you were David Tennant, though, like at that point, he was super fanboy, and he's just hooked up with the Doctor's daughter.
I know.
Yeah, well, I think that's got loads of timey-wimey complications, that one.
It certainly has.
And that's the face he got when he heard that Tenant had proposed to his daughter. That's the face.
You what?
Yeah. David Hardin, didn't it take the Master 100 years to climb out of the sewers every time he fell into the sewer? And he'd age every time he came back until the point where he was grey-haired and using a walking stick. Yes. Yeah, he had a very precise, it was, I don't know if it was 300 years. It was very funny. It's brought me back, The Curse of Fatal Death, when Joanna Lumley's doctor noticed that the vibrating sonic screwdriver had 3 settings. Look, it's funny, but this is the other thing, and I am laughing. Hello, I do have a sense of humor, but I also noticed that Stephen Moffat was introducing sexual jokes and innuendo into Doctor Who, and RTD and Moffat have done that an awful lot, to the point where you almost think, should we stop the sexual innuendo and sex itself and relationships and pull right back? Because there seems to be a joke all the time now.
Yeah, well, it's an easy, it's low hanging fruit, I guess, if you want to go there. But I mean, I must admit, Julia Swala, she, she was one of those teenage crushes for me when she was in Press Gang. So
yeah,
she was really good in that show.
Yeah,
so there you go. Time Crash, Forerunner, or telling us what's going to happen. But in itself, nice little mini. So nice idea. I have to say, nice idea. We'll have more of them on the Sunday show. We'll talk about The Great Detective on Sunday. We'll also be talking about Born Again, which is the name of when it was the David Tennant just regenerated from Chris Eccleston, which I hadn't seen for a long
That was a
time.
nice piece.
Yeah.
Enjoyed
So
that.
there's a few we'll be talking about, but I just want to get the lads really. This is a detox, remember, and I have remembered, and of course. We've just got our Blu-ray for season 1, Blake 7. Again, it's just on the shelf. I haven't had time, but there you go. If you go back, all the way back, folks, schedules. I know this is to the Brits, but I think the Aussies might just see what's sat around it. September 1981 at 7:20. You felt dead old as a Doctor Who fan watching Blake 7 at 7:20. It's a bit like Torchwood, was a bit later. So Blake 7. The first of 13 episodes by Chris Boucher, and off we go there. And then followed by Panorama telling us about some Labour problem with their Deputy Prime Minister. And then we've got the 9 o'clock news on BBC Two. George Melly, remember him? In fact, I met George Melly in Perth in Western Australia for the Jazz Festival in 1989. That's George Melly for you. So there you go. That's Blake 7. And just to warm the cockles again, now we're in 1977 in Britain. Now this is, I'm speaking to certain people in Britain here, just to kind of get you going. Bugs Bunny, the Pink Panther show. Didn't you love that car? And I loved the Pink Panther chocolate. Did you ever get that? No. And then the Boring News, you remember as a kid, Boring News. And then Star Turn, Bernard Cribbins invites Andrew Sachs, Susan Kin and Derek Griffiths with John Noakes, Tony Arthur and Lance Percival into this acting game. I loved that. Star Turn and Bernard Cribbins, there you go. Then you had Doctor Who, a 4-part adventure, The Invisible Enemy. Then you had the Bruce Forsyth Generation game. Oh, this is just heaven. And you know what, Doug and Dan? My mum and dad used to get us 4 quarters of sweets, right? Not me, the family.
Nice.
Put the 4 quarters of sweets on the family little coffee table, and we'd all sit there. Me and Stephen were normally sat on the floor watching. I mean, he hated Doctor Who, but he liked Star Turn and he liked Bruce Forsyth's Generation game, and we both sat and watched the Pink Panther. Oh, it's this is family treats, family life. There's a good old cliffhanger. Look, live tonight on BBC One. You'll get to see Sylvester McCoy's shoes. Doctor Who meets the Shoe Shine Man. Yeah.
Wasn't it the notorious one where he actually put himself on the cliff or something? It was a weird one.
Yes, he did.
Yeah, that's in Dragonfire. He climbs off a cliff, hangs off the cliff, and then climbs back off the cliff.
Yeah. That was called a writer getting desperate and going, I think I need a cliffhanger. What I'll do is I'll have him. Yeah, I know. He wanted to use that blooming umbrella, though, as well, didn't he? Anyway, it seemed to be a kind of tribute to those old black and white movies, it seemed to me. Here we've got, now, I wasn't around, but we're in the 60s here, and we've got, look at this, Grandstand, then Disco Dawn. Then we've got Doctor Who at 5:50 with the Smugglers. And then you had at 6:15 the Dixon of Dock Green. I remember my mum and dad talking about that. I think I saw some of the last ones in the early 70s. Dixon of Dock Green, all about a police officer.
What year was this? 1960? What?
I think it's 69. Oh no, it can't be 69 because it's the Smugglers. I think it says 66 if I can just about see it.
I was in Wales.
Yeah,
I remember Dixon of Dock Green.
Yeah, and the Dick Van Dyke Show. So there you go. I mean, there's a lot of. Yeah, I mean, it fires the... Now, this has got people going. Let me just get the margin. This is when... I'm sorry I've called you the margin. You know me. It's my own language. It's my own language. Yeah, well, there you go, Mark Postgate. Sex in Doctor Who. I never thought it would happen. Anthony Parkinson, Paul Darrow, the Doctor we never had. Anthony Parkinson, he's in the Silurians, isn't he? He's in the unit. Paul Richards says that the new Blu-rays are terrific. Well, they're collecting dust at the moment. We will open them. But he did love the Pink Panther. SG loved the Pink Panther. But you two seem to say you didn't have your Pink Panther chocolate.
I don't remember it. No.
No, I don't. It wasn't around when I was a kid.
Deprived somehow.
Yeah. Well, you are. Yeah. Mark Postgate, I saw George Melly do a lecture. Yeah, I mean, I saw him at the bar. I was a wine waiter trying to earn blooming a decent crust. I had a big jazz tie on, braces, and it was in at St George's by the Terrace in Perth. If anyone's in Western Australia, George's by the Terrace, fireworks, everything. Opening night of the Jazz Festival in, I think, January or February 1990. Actually, is the precise date. Yep, Leap Shin. I remember Star Turn. I love Star Turn. I loved, and later on I had a version with Larry Grayson and somebody else as well, and that was funny. Rachel's still kind of recovering from her jet lag. I'm a wretched millennial, but at least I know Bugs Bunny and Pink Panther off that list with Doctor Who, Bernard and Bruce. It'll be good enough. I can guarantee, Rachel, you'd have loved it. Now, Simon Anthony, you know, and like I say, I used to make the TV trailers. Really slow job. It took ages. Are you responsible for that? For his shoes showing in that one?
He's done a lot, hasn't he, Simon Anthony?
He has.
Done a lot.
And I will. He's coming on. He's on a promise.
This is great. Excellent.
Now, let's continue our detox. Here we go. Now, last week, now it's going to make sense, isn't it? Because obviously last week I said on this day, this is what was shown. So you can imagine it's the next part. So I am playing the game it's about the parts. But when you look at that list of what was shown over the years, Curse of Fenric Part 4, so the climax to that, the build up to the end of Terror of the Vervoids, the end of Full Circle, the end of Pyramids of Mars, and the Waters of Mars. Look, I know that to me, Pyramids of Mars is a strong shout out, but actually, when I look at that list per episode, the Waters of Mars, I think, is the standout.
I agree. That one.
Yeah. They sit, and it looked good sci-fi to a degree.
Very good production values too.
Yeah.
Whatever budget they had, it looked like a big budget movie, which obviously it wouldn't have been. I don't know where they filmed it, but it was brilliantly staged.
I think there was a lot of Aussies in Waters of Mars.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
What's his name?
He was
from Neighbours.
Yes.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, one of the Ramses.
Yes, one of the Ramses was in there. Yes.
Yeah, he's still acting.
It was a good bit. And Lindsay Duncan, you had a top actress there. You did have the moment
She's
at
a
the
good
end,
actor.
the Time Lord Victorious.
Where she blew her brains out,
Yeah.
finishing on a high.
Yeah.
It's still that resolution didn't make any sense, because if she went in and just blew her brains out, that would have like caused a whole other timey-wimey paradox in its own right. It's like, well, what, this famous astronaut found, you know, suicided in her apartment when she's meant to be on Mars, and no one knows how she got back. Like that doesn't work as a resolution.
Yeah, that's true. Well, let's take a pregnant pause. Boomer Doug, as you know, has done a little item for us.
This time I'm looking at a movie that was influenced by Doctor Who. Here you have two stoners travelling through time and space, meeting famous people, travelling in a phone box. Compared to a time traveller travelling in a phone box, meeting famous people, who is clearly off his face. There's no doubt to me that the Doctor has been experimenting with mind-altering drugs on a regular basis, so I rest my case. According to the writers of Bill and Ted, the police box thing was a coincidence, and they claim to have had no knowledge of Doctor Who. I respectfully call bulldust on that one, but I'll leave that up to you guys. Apparently the film was originally called something like Bill and Ted's Time Van or something, but they dropped that idea so there wouldn't be comparisons to the DeLorean in Back to the Future. Either way though, whether it's a rip-off or a coincidence or an accident, I mean, Bill and Ted is a really funny movie, so I'm not knocking the movie. I totally recommend it. But let us know in the comments what you think. Was the telephone box a coincidence or some sort of subliminal memory, or did they secretly rip off the TARDIS? Personally, I think somebody somewhere must have known about the TARDIS. I mean, even if you don't watch Doctor Who, even my kids know about the TARDIS and they don't watch Doctor Who. Let me know what you think. Let us know in the comments. Back to you, Brendan.
There we go.
Love the sound effect.
Yeah, I just, you know me, just added a sound effect as you do.
That
So,
was good. That was good.
so Dan, what do you think of what Doug's raised there as a possibility?
Well, knowing what I know about Keanu Reeves's fandom and he's into comics and stuff, I'd be very surprised if none of them had any idea of Doctor Who.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
But whether or not, I mean,
they said that they didn't know about it, but I don't believe them. I don't know.
I suppose.
Up to it.
I suppose, yeah, that's the game in town. I mean, of course, the TARDIS is a rip-off of the Time Machine, H.G. Wells, of course. So that we have
of course.
You know, Paul Richards is pointing out here that ripping off the Matrix Deadly Assassin. I know when you look at the Matrix movie franchise, yeah, I know.
That's a rip-off. Cyberborg's a rip-off of Cyberman.
Absolutely, there's lots.
But haven't we said Ark in Space came first before Alien?
Yep.
Yeah.
And this is what I mean, and this is what Boomer Doug's going to do. And please write to us about any suggestions. He's been producing one of.
I'll run out soon.
And so he'll just keep presenting with us these kind of homages, either the Doctor Who homage to a movie or vice versa. And of course, there will be a bit of that, and that's how it works. I mean, God, when I did media studies, it's called intertextuality. That's what it's so.
There you go.
Eastland Burkholder says legal advice, research to avoid accidental similarities. So yes, they're new, big time. Reese Roder, I think it was a rip-off of Who, but I don't mind because it's Ace.
No, I love the movie.
Yeah, and you said that in the thing, didn't you?
Yeah. It's just that I found it odd, like when I did my research, that I can't remember if it was the producers or the writers. I think it was the writers. They were just, oh no, we didn't know about Doctor Who. It was just a coincidence. They originally were going to do a van, but they decided against that because of the Back to the Future similarities, which I don't doubt. But come on, it was a phone box.
Yeah. David Harding, Community not only did a Doctor Who homage called Doctor Who Space Time, but it also homaged Bill and Ted by having the phone booth. So there you go.
That's nice. I love Community.
Yeah. Gillian Saeed, Bill and Ted's phone box was a great homage. So yeah, I think everybody has got it.
Guys.
Exactly. Yeah. And Paul Holgate is agreeing with us. Alien ripped off the Ark in Space. I suppose they can't. Definitely. They can't. You know, they're trying to be darling. You know, this is all my great concept, and you sometimes you can't actually say what's bled into your head from something else anyway. I suppose.
Did Ridley Scott? He worked for the BBC.
He did a lot of TV. Yeah, he directed a lot of TV stuff in the 60s. So yeah, that's a good point.
And I will point out he's from the Northeast. He's a Yorkshire lad, and he went to Hartlepool College just down the road here, about 2 miles away. And you know, I'm from the same part of the world, and his idea for Blade Runner was to show the Teesside lights at night because it was all industry. We had the biggest manufacturing base in Europe at one point, and at night it's beautiful because where my mum and dad live is just on a hill going down into Middlesbrough, and you see the whole Teesside basin, the ships, the shipbuilding, the ICI as was British Steel, and Ridley Scott always said the view going down Ormsby Bank into Middlesbrough was the view he wanted to replicate in Blade Runner.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah. I'm sure I've seen an interview where Raymond Cusick mentions that he took over designing of the Daleks because Ridley Scott was too busy. Does that ring a bell with either of you guys?
Well, David Harding has just said, didn't Ridley Scott almost get to design
the
Daleks?
Yeah, I think you're right, David Harding. My recollection was that Raymond came in and did it because Ridley was too busy.
God, what would we...
He was replacing somebody, yeah.
I mean, I know,
But
I'm
it
being
would have been
cheeky, but
fishy.
can you imagine if the Daleks didn't quite look like the Daleks, but they ended up looking a bit more like Alien? Can you imagine? Whoa!
Fantastic.
Well, if you like, every time you see them redo the Dalek in some other form, it never quite looks right. There's a proportionality to it that just makes it look just right.
Mm.
It's really hard to draw a Dalek too properly, like
Yes.
to replicate the actual shape of it. You think your brain says, "I know it's really simple," and you start drawing it, and then you realize, no, it's actually really complex.
God,
Yes,
yeah.
it's a really clever design.
Now I'm just going to click through because I do want to get to a moment. It's a flashback. We were talking about technology, Boomer Doug. It's just decided to go walkies as you do.
Well, where's your funny little graphic then, Brendan? Where's your little graphic? That says,
I know.
"Oh, I made a mistake."
I should make. Yeah, I'll tell you what, everybody. I'm going to have more and more segments of little musical items. Right, here we go. I'm back on the money, back in the room. Here we go. Right, Shooty is excited to meet you all at London ComicCon this weekend. However, due to a last-minute change in technical rehearsals for his upcoming theatre run in The Importance of Being Earnest, his schedule has slightly changed. We're delighted that Shooty can still join us on a Saturday, but for a shorter session, and are thrilled to announce that in addition, he will now be joining us on Sunday. Should you wish to use your Saturday Diamond Pass, blah, blah, blah. Right, that's, you know how PR works. Okay, things change, but people are actually saying, hold on a minute. So it just finishes. Unfortunately, these changes mean that Shooty's talk will no longer be able to take place. Refunds for the talk will happen. Now, this had been mooted, and this is from Gary Lee, so let me just kind of sell it right properly. It would appear that Shooty's intimate chat at 20 quid a pop at this weekend's Comic-Con is cancelled because not enough gullible fools have paid to fill the 1,000 capacity hall to watch Shooty. Right? Now, that's what Gary Lee is purporting, but in a response to Timothy Rodmell, he said this. I'm not going to read every word, obviously. He thinks we'll buy that BS when he attempted to fleece fans who had already paid to register to Comic-Con to do an event in an event where the spin was that he would talk intimately to anyone coughing up 20 quid, and in which he was already set to flog his signed photos at Lord knows how much. What was never revealed was intimately was in fact an auditorium seating up to 1,000 people. So that's 20,000 quid. So it seems that that's the talk from Gary Lee, and I've got no reason to challenge it. So basically, you see, my version of an intimate chat, and me and Jamie did it, it was in 2013, so the 50th anniversary in Newcastle, Sylvester McCoy. We paid the extra, and we were in a hotel room, just 8 of us, and we had an hour with Sylvester McCoy to talk to him. You know that Dwayne has organised with his event that you can have a meal. You can have a VIP access, and a lot of events do that. But when it says an intimate chat with Shooty Gatwa, you don't think you're going to be sharing it with another 999.
Yeah, well, I've coughed up for the VIP dinner with Sylvester. So, but I have a feeling I'm going to get my money's worth out of someone with 80 years of experience.
Yes. And look, he gives his money's worth anyway. And Dwayne, we've seen the photographs of the event already when they're all having a meal. So I think you're going to get what you want. But there is a difference between classic Who and new Who in how this works out. As you know, some of them don't even deign to visit the fans, apart from, Comic-Cons are industrial scale fandom, aren't they, really? It's not intimate in any shape or form. To call any Comic-Con intimate, I think, is a bit of an anachronism, really, isn't it?
A lie.
Yes. But
yeah, look, I think those big Comic-Cons, they're money makers, aren't they, really?
And it makes people suspect things. Elizabeth Sladen was the first one who came up with this idea of charging for autographs, having talked to Carrie Fisher. And I think fair dues. That's fine. That's how the world changes. I get that. Leapshin says here, I don't think Shooty has his head full in the Doctor Who game. He has far too many other commitments he is paying attention to, like what's he going to wear for tonight. And by the way, everybody, because the lads mentioned it before we started the show, I'm well aware he's done a Vanity Fair interview. And of course, if you know the Sensesphere very well, I park that into a Sensesphere saloon where I will have my English teacher brain on. It'll be highlighted and analysed to its half. Oh, there won't be anything left. So yes, of course, we're going to talk about the Vanity Fair interview where he compares himself to Madonna. Yes, we will. Don't you worry. There'll be a highlighter there. It'll be in red. So look out for the saloon, probably Tuesday, because Brendan's going to be on it. I've been waiting to do a saloon. I need an interview, and all of a sudden, slapping my way. I won't throw it into a quick stream. We can mention it, lads. Of course you can, but I will nail it on Tuesday. Rachel's still with us, or she's getting better, I think. An intimate chat with Shooty. My chat with Colin was done. Yes, please go to her channel. She did a little chat with Colin. I've watched that. My chat with Colin was done virtually, but I had 7 minutes or so, 1-to-1. And yeah, come on. Paul Holgate, we did V in the 80s, Jane Bader and June Chadwick, just putting that out there. Well, that's good. We all like that. I mean, trouble is now you have to pay a bomb after time for that sort of thing. So there you go. Yes, it doesn't mean that the Doctor Who program's failing. It just means people in a cost of living crisis, since the left have mentioned the cost of living crisis quite a lot, maybe they need to mean it. Actually, there is a cost of living crisis. Stop using it just to get votes. Maybe there is one, and maybe don't charge us so much money while you're being lefty, progressive, and all bothered about representation. Some of us need to represent our money better and keep it in our pocket, okay? Honestly, there is a Spinsphere show coming up. Don't you worry, everybody. I will have a little sub-strand on politics, because I think it's just all bleeding together now, isn't it?
It really is. It really is.
So there's the shot. If Anthony Parkinson, who's been toxing us to death, is still here, there's the shot. Now, your thoughts, lads.
It looks like a sea monkey, doesn't it? The old sea monkeys you used to get when you were a kid in the back of a comic. I don't know what it is.
I don't know, but I'm definitely not interested in its sex life. That's for sure.
No, I'm not either.
It looks like an Iridian.
Well, I mean, there's been an
from the chase.
Yeah, I mean, people have linked it to Underwater Menace.
Someone else said that. Oh, there you go.
Yeah. Let's just look at some of them here and see what the options are, because I don't want to jump the gun, because I also know RTD wants us on streaming services to be jumping to get the wrong impression. And so is it like is it an Atlantean from Underwater Menace? You know? Is it a Sea Devil? Of course, I'll just put it out there because we know the Sea Devils. Yeah, it doesn't.
Why would they redesign them after showing them in Jodie's era? I don't get it. I don't think it's a Sea
Devil. It's that, whatever that is. No, it's not.
So as we look at that, my personal opinion is that there's a few hunches I've got, and I was the one who it was Sutek. I said so. When I look at that. When I also said Susan will be back and she wasn't. When you look at that picture, I can see the fin bit, but if it says it's the war between the land and the sea, it doesn't say Sea Devils. We just know the Sea Devils are in it. So my strong, educated hunch is we're going to see lots of different sea species.
That's what I think too.
But I do think in sci-fi, just as we said at the beginning of our show, that sci-fi is falling into this kind of let's just do soap opera with people with funny hair. But the same thing here is, why does every monster or alien have to look humanoid? Why do we have to do this obsession with everybody needs to look like the human race? I mean, when the lefties and progressives are talking about everybody should enjoy multiculturalism, we seem to be saying, but everybody has to look like us at the same time.
Yeah, look, I refuse to overthink it. I'm interested in watching it. I'm not going to write it off just yet. But at the same time, when people are talking about seeing leaks around, Russell Tovey making out with one of these, I just think, that to me that says everything why they did this and not have just a Doctor Who episode.
Well, you see, to me, look, I think we're all, as Doctor Who fans, we're frustrated writers. We'd all love to write a Doctor Who script, but when I've tried to do it as a younger person, I'm too respectful of other people's concepts. So basically, if I wanted a Sontaran in it, you think, well, don't, because that's a cheat, and I'd have to get it accurate. As you know, nowadays, they don't do that. They just go, I'll do it my way. And they do a shorthand version of the Sontaran, which I think is extremely disrespectful, and you really should have come up with your own thing. But the other thing about people who are writing sci-fi now is they don't have any new ideas. So the only new idea they've got is to say, oh, we've never done a sea devil having a relationship. Do you know what? We've never seen and you think, this is just you trying to get love in, sex in. It's not a concept. My hunch is it isn't a sea devil, and they know what they're doing. That's on a bridge. They know people will see it. They know people will stream it around the world. If they wanted to show us... Yeah. If they want us to show a sea devil, they'd have done it. We all know the sea devils are in it. Chris Chibnall, to be quite honest, that's quite a decent version of a sea devil. The mask is, anyway.
Weren't they? They were quite well designed.
Yeah, so this, and by the way, my other hunch with this leak is it could be a version of a sea devil, but a juvenile one. Remember juveniles with less? It could be, because as people are saying in the thread, this could be, as poor Paul Holgate is so frustrated. Looks like, I wish I could pronounce the name. She was Martha Jones's sister. Looks like why the hell would you want to cover her up with prosthetics? Well, I could say that about a few actors they've had in Doctor Who, and they've covered them up, and you think, God, why do that? But yes, but maybe because it's going to be, well, I could cry. I really could. But it could be a juvenile sea devil. It could be a different fish species, of course, who are joining in and spying and stuff like that. Do you know what? Part of the wheeze is it's a 5-part story with unit all over it like a rash. If it's a battle between the land and the sea, there's going to be spying. And I would have thought you're going to have little raids overnight when like Marines or like James Bond, the sea devil or sea species will invade establishments during the night. So this could be a kind of covert operation. You know what I mean? It's going to be that kind of thing where basically in the old days, when you had an army attacking, you had archers, you had those on horseback, you had a whole range of people with different jobs. If I was in charge of the fish people from the sea, you would have certain people who are good swimmers who will do that and put the bombs there. The sea devils will be the lynch mob will do something else. I think if you wrote this properly and realistically, if it's the whole of the sea fighting the land species, then they've all got different things to do. I mean, you could have blooming crocodiles in it, for crying out loud, couldn't you? You could have different things in it.
You could bring Matt Smith in with his fish fingers and custard.
Yeah. But when we watched The Seeds of Doom, there was a moment in there where every little plant all seemed to be collective and all joining in together, didn't there?
Yeah.
And in a way, I'd love it if the whole of the sea was dangerous. Everything in the sea was
like a hive consciousness.
Yeah. You see, you'd be turning it into a thriller and not a porno. But David Harding is praying, please say it's not a sea devil. Well, I'm living in hope, David, and I'm not a mug.
I don't think it's a sea devil.
There's no way they'd do a sea devil like that.
SG, could it be a female, the Watcher from Log Up?
But if it's Gugu as a sea devil, maybe my interest is a little bit piqued.
Yeah.
Here we go.
Paul Richards agrees with me on the humanization though, of the creatures. It's just they're never as interesting as something different. Yes, I think they've almost got the Sea Devils. I mean, the one hard bit was to make their lips move and make that work. But come on, you can do that now. We don't have to make them human. But yes, I'm going to put Paul up again. Paul, I feel your pain. A gorgeous woman covered up. You've got a better chance in the Curse of Fatal Death to see somebody's, what is it? Their what was their beacons? What was it called now? Yes, Anthony Parkinson. I thought it looks like Aquaman on a budget.
Paul Holgate, like some people like women covered up in latex.
Oh, here we go. Oh, a mermaid. Oh, a mermaid. Are we going to have mermaids in Doctor Who? Are we really going to go down the fantasy vibe here? You know, it's possible.
Shark people.
Yeah, under the sea, they'll start singing.
Bird's eye fish fingers.
Divine and Dragon. Now, we're going to get Divine and Dragon on. He's just so busy working. Well, apparently working. I mean, look at this. Hello.
Now, what's going on?
Hello, class. A variety of sea species is a real possibility. It opens the door to different shows going forward. Not that I think it will receive the views they want. I know. Let's have a look. Paul Richards, RTD will channel Shape in Water and have Russell Tovey in a romantic relationship with the Sea Devil. I think that is odds on. We're going to have a relationship. Yeah. Daryl Joyce. Now, Daryl Joyce, let's have a look. I thought I did have, let's have a look. You're not forgotten, Daryl, by the way. There you go, Daryl. I didn't know you were going to appear, but it's good to see you. But it's good to see your work as well. That's a fish person, lads.
Love your channel, Daryl. Love your channel.
Yes. Maybe not a Sea Devil, but still looks cheap and unimaginative from what I can see. So let's just say that again. And again, Daryl Joyce, there's an Atlantean from the 60s. And a few streams have said, I wonder if it's an Atlantean. But there, and I'll actually give you a better credit, this is Daryl Joyce's version of an Atlantean now. And which version would you prefer?
Well, tough choice, I don't think. That's excellent.
That's beautiful.
Yeah, that one, that's excellent.
Beautiful, isn't it?
So that was nicely teed up, Daryl. I didn't know you were coming on, but there you go. I've rewarded you. But I have to say, and when people have tuned in to Daryl Joyce's YouTube, please try. I mean, have a look. Remember, Daryl Joyce, everybody is starting to say, could Daryl Joyce please do an animated series like this? Why don't the BBC speak to him?
Oh, it's so beautiful, that stuff that he's done, the animations. It's next level. Love it.
It is. And that's Doctor Who to me. Daryl Joyce clearly understands Doctor Who. Look at that fish person. That's scary. That's actually up there with a Sea Devil, but different. You know what I mean? In fear. That's the sort of thing this show should be doing. And it disappoints me in a way that RTD, who obviously does like to draw, and I think he is a good artist, actually. You know, he designed the Ood, for example. He knows what he's doing. Why doesn't he want to go down this thrill the kids road?
Who knows?
Yeah, I want to get back to just like horror.
Yeah, so do I.
Because you can do it cheaper too.
Scary and gothic. Yeah, it would be cheaper. Yeah, absolutely.
So what's everybody thinking? Are we thinking, you know, it's an Atlantean? Are we thinking it's an upgrade of an Atlantean? Are we thinking it's a Sea Devil? Are we thinking it's a red herring? What do we reckon?
Some sort of Atlantean, I think it's not. It's definitely not a Sea Devil.
Yeah, I wouldn't have even put money on it being a juvenile Sea Devil. To me, it looks like some sort of Silurian species.
Yeah, and of course that Christmas trailer makes you think stuff like that, doesn't it? Cosmic Toy Man, hello. I stopped watching Doctor Who during Capaldi's run, so I'm well out of touch. But when did they last put an idea forward that we thought was good? I keep trying. I'm trying my best, but you can see things at face value, but then you can suddenly go, but they're probably going to do a sex scene, a love scene, a kiss, and it's just not the place Doctor Who. I think Doctor Who on its game is much scarier than Star Trek. Is much scarier.
Oh yeah.
And
Definitely.
so why is Doctor Who walking away from almost its unique selling point? Everybody says Doctor Who behind the sofa, and then suddenly we just say, well, actually get on the sofa and get at it.
Oh,
Yeah, I don't
horror
understand
you can entertain and engage your audience, but you can't really preach to them in a horror scenario, can you? So
you
I
got a
think
good
there's
point
your
there.
answer.
Yeah,
That's
very
fair
probably.
point.
It's disappointing. It's disappointing in
bad.
that one. Now, lads, screeching of brakes. Brendan's got another item. I mean, obviously, I've got feedback from fans out there on X. If this is a fish person, the title of the spin-off makes more sense. The war between the land and the sea. It's not going to be just sea devils in the sea. Yeah, so Jack, I'm kind of with you on that one.
I am too.
So regarding that set leak from the war between the land and the sea, everyone is jumping to the conclusion it's a sea devil. But to me, it looks more like a fish, the fish people. So we've respected what you've said. Somebody said it might be a hybrid. I forgot to mention that. It could be a hybrid. Multiculturalism.
I hope not.
Yeah, I know. I won't read that out, but you can see it. I don't like the humanoid bit. I really don't. But that's it. This is the problem. We're becoming cynics of it. So tonight on BBC at 7 p.m. there'll be a trailer, an exclusive teaser of The Joy to the World. There you go. Pudsey in the TARDIS. He could be in a wheelchair now. It's all sorted. But what was interesting, thanks again to Gary Lee, who kind of set this up and teed this up. Stephen Moffat this evening told BBC Southeast that Joy for the World is about a hotel in the future that uses time travel to fill its vacant rooms from the past. Now, Doug, you like to see homages to other programs. Does this sound like anything you've ever seen before, or does it sound like a good idea?
I only recently saw the quote. I actually think the concept sounds really clever. I just hope they follow up on it. I think it's a nice idea.
Yeah, but see, if you use time travel to fill your vacancies in the past, then you're gonna have vacancies in the present. So
now you're thinking too much. You're right, of course, but that's the beauty of the Christmas episodes, isn't it? I don't think when I watch them. I just watch them with a few eggnogs and some food in my tummy, and normally with a Christmas special I enjoy it no matter what it is the first time around. Then I start criticizing them.
Well, David Harding,
you're right though, Dan. I think it's probably not going to hold up.
Yeah,
I'm interested and looking forward to the Christmas special, but this leak hasn't sort of well, I wouldn't call it a leak, but I mean, it came out of, I heard Moffat's comments directly off of video.
Yeah, I'll show you.
He could be lying, though. He's known for lying.
Yeah. David Harding sounds like the restaurant at the end of the universe. There's no original ideas. Yeah. So this is what he said anyway. So just so we can actually see, in case you haven't quite seen it yet. A time traveling hotel. Okay.
Right.
And he said, he was approached by RTD, who was struggling to complete the Christmas script in light of an upcoming second season. Yes, what have I been saying? That he's overstretched? But the sign of a good manager is you know when you're overstretched and you delegate. Come on, delegate, mate.
Delegate.
Yeah. So Moffat says, the truth is, I absolutely love doing Doctor Who Christmas because I'm a big fan of Christmas. I absolutely adore Christmas. Okay, I've got that bit. I can tease something about the Christmas special. Imagine in the far, far future, imagine that a hotel chain got hold of the idea of time travel. What's the first thing a hotel chain would do if they had time travel? They'd realize they had an opportunity to sell all the unsold nights in their own hotels in history. Okay. This isn't the first teaser we've gotten about the Christmas episode, with Davey speaking in the behind-the-scenes video on YouTube for Empire of Death saying, now the Doctor voyages forward, and guess what always happens to the Doctor every so often? Christmas. Here comes Christmas. I can't give much more, but work has begun on it already, and it's mad. It's one of the maddest Christmas specials you'll ever see. That is not a word I want to hear. It's epic. That's nice. It goes epic just means we've got lots of different places. We know what that means in Doctor Who terms. It just means, oh gosh, we'll pretend we're in Panama now. It goes to so many different places, and
it's a shot in Cardiff with Middle East, 1945.
Hotel it was. I've got a feeling I've stayed at that hotel. If it's a hotel in Cardiff, it's very similar to a hotel I stayed at. I don't know if anyone out there knows.
Yeah, well, I mean, so let's look at the concept and whether it kind of gets your Doctor Who kind of, spirit going. Okay, time traveling hotel is like a time traveling police box. Let's be honest. Let's just say it's yeah, okay.
Yeah.
I'm not seeing. Okay, on the surface of it, I'm not hearing anything scary, and I don't think we're going to have anything scary. It's a hotel.
Up for Christmas.
It's a hotel business plan for filling their rooms. Okay, right. Gosh, this sounds so exciting. It sounds like the Hilton. It sounds like, it's like, oh, I must watch this. Doctor Who.
This is where my business head's at. Before I even get to that, if I have a hotel that's somehow come across time travel technology, guess what? I'm no longer in the business of hotels. I'm in the business of time travel technology.
That's a very good point.
it is, and it brings to mind that the trailer we've already seen, you've got the Doctor like some sort of waiter running in different rooms, or he's at Mount Everest in a tent, he's on that train in, I think, Italy. But that still doesn't quite make sense that we're in different time zones, but it's not a hotel. One was a train, one was a tent, one was Second World War, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Oh, so I mean,
Moffat's probably lying.
We've done a hotel version before. What was it called? The Landlord. And
the Lodger.
The Lodger, that was it. I always get them. Yeah. The titles have gone downhill. Can we have another Seeds of Doom or the Landlord of Doom? I mean, the Hotel of Death sounds much better.
I was going to say the Hotel of Death. There you go. Beautiful.
Yeah.
Actually, that would be really great if they'd done a spin-off instead of the war between the land and the sea. They did one where someone let some crinoids loose and all the greenies just got taken over by crinoids. That would be pretty funny.
And we could have the Hotel Room of Doom.
Rhymes as well.
Yeah.
Hotel of Doom goes boom.
But this is what I mean. People love the Lodger. It's just, I don't know. A hotel that is using time travel to fill its rooms. Where's the scary bit? That what somebody books in who's naughty and nasty? I'm trying to work out why this is. It's classic Stephen Moffat timey wimey.
Let's just go in and blind and hope that it's good.
Yeah, blind.
I know, but this is where I probably disagree with you and Doug. I really have problems with the Christmas specials. They have never really delivered to the point where you want to do a rewatch for me.
Oh no, you're absolutely right. I think definitely very few of them are rewatchable, but there's something about the combination of Christmas and Doctor Who that I just absolutely love. And I think this special looks like it's quite beautifully filmed. I'm going to reserve judgment until I see it. I'm just not a huge fan of Shooty, unfortunately. But I think it's going to be one of those fluffy ones that you kind of like on the first viewing, and then when you watch it the second and third time, you think, what were they doing? So I agree with you, Brendan, absolutely. But I have rose-coloured glasses when it comes to Christmas, I'm afraid.
Actually,
turn me into a Grinch.
Can I just say, when RTD and Stephen Moffat have these multi-levels of a political message as well as entertainment, what Rhys Roder has said then, and I know he's trying to play safe because for some reason nowadays we have to be so careful, but I hadn't thought what you've just said there, Rhys Roder, but actually, yes, you could argue. I mean, we tried to book New York, me and Jamie, for our honeymoon, and it was hard because a lot of hotels are full. You try and book hotels in remote places in Britain, and they're full, and you're going, what? are very expensive, and and I'll just read it out, Reese Roda. This idea is really offensive given what's happening to UK hotels. And it's not just UK. When I was in America, there's a lot that are full. That's all I'll say about it. I don't want to get anybody into trouble. Well, it's not into trouble. I know what you're saying, because this should be a lovely Christmas episode of our great Doctor Who program. And it's about filling up your hotels to make money. And of course, on a lot of people's minds in 2024, could be there's another thing going on. We don't need time travel. But yeah, I know what you're saying. But, you know, 1 minute, the writers of our program, who have great political messaging, they all do, suddenly just want it to be light entertainment. It's Christmas, darling. But the next minute, they want it to be political. And so you've trained us up now, lads. We now look at politics and everything. So you can't have a free day off. Okay? It's not possible anymore. You've educated me so well. My unconscious bias is off the scale now.
Hey, what did you guys reckon about the there was a Christmas special with the face huggers? The last Christmas?
The last Christmas.
It was Capaldi and
Santa, wasn't he?
Yeah, that's right. That's the one.
That one.
Yeah, I thought that was good. There were some genuine scary moments in that, but that was a blatant rip-off of Alien.
Oh, absolutely. That's another one of my little comparisons.
But the horror was good.
Probably coming up. Yeah.
I've
actually watched that one more than once. I think it's quite nicely done. I love Nick Frost.
Well, if I said to you, I'll read them out. You've got Christmas Invasion, The Return of Dr. Mysterio, The Doctor, the Widow, and the Wardrobe, Last Christmas, The Husbands of River Song, The Snowmen.
I enjoyed that.
Voyage of the Damned, which got the high ratings, Runaway Bride, Time of the Doctor, The Next Doctor, The End of Time, Twice Upon a Time. Then you had The Revolution and Resolution of the Daleks, Spyfall, A Christmas Carol. How many of them do you really rewatch?
At the time, I rewatch the episode each week, like flat out and week to week. So
you see,
but not lately though.
I didn't mind the Dalek ones. I didn't like Jodie Zero at all, but I quite liked the Dalek ones, although they weren't Christmas. But yeah, there's probably not many I would rewatch.
The thing is, I when Doctor Who provides Christmas with a ladle, just snowmen, Santa Claus, flying Christmas trees, and we just go OTT because RTD doesn't seem to have a filter. I kind of, as a kid with Doctor Who, and yes, I know I'm from Britain, so of course it was always cold and dark, but basically Doctor Who wasn't on Christmas Day, of course, but it would be on 2 or 3 days later or before. And it felt special just because it was dark and you were staying in. And yeah, it could be Horns of Nymon. Honestly, but it doesn't matter. And I think some of us fans just know that a Genesis of the Daleks omnibus just after Christmas was all we needed as a stocking filler. It wasn't a Doctor Who episode with tinsel.
Fair point.
I don't know.
Good afternoon to let your food digest.
But Doctor Who with tinsel and Father Christmas and all that stuff does take me to having Christmases in Australia, where the forced winter festival look seems so stupid and anachronistic. I was in Brisbane. It was 36 degrees. You'd go out of your balcony and over the Brisbane River, you'd see 3 Aussies and jet skis in snowmen gear and a Foster's lager shouting "Merry Christmas" to everybody. That was Christmas. It was a good show. I've got the photograph. They were dressed full Father Christmas garb, a bit like Christmas Invasion. And they were just had bees in the hand and were jet skiing up and down the Brisbane River. But that was Christmas in Australia. You can't force it. I remember going into Brisbane High Street, the mall there, the Queen Street Mall, and they had wooden shaped Christmas trees painted. They're trying to do winter festival in a hot climate, and it doesn't do it. And I know sometimes the Aussies try, and I know you love Christmas, but it's so different, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean,
I like the fact that it's so bizarre. I kind of like that we do that. But I understand what you're saying. But I don't think I could have Christmas if it wasn't in summer now. I'm so used to it. I love it. But I've got a European background, so obviously I relate to all the UK Christmases because they're the memories of my childhood. I love the idea of I actually remember snow, and apparently it didn't snow that often in Wales. So I looked it up one day for some reason, but I do remember snow, and I remember making snowmen and snowballs. But there's something about the Aussie Christmas and pretending that it's. I still have a Sunday roast. I still have a Christmas dinner on Christmas Eve, regardless of the weather. It's insanity, but we do it every year.
It is utter insanity. I remember my aunt and uncle, my first ever Christmas in Ballarat in Victoria, and it was I do remember it was 36 degrees, and it was an old. We in Britain we call them bungalows, but you know what I mean. And it was an old, an old Victorian kind of bungalow, and corrugated iron roof and all that stuff. And I remember in one dining room. It wasn't the biggest room in the house, but we were in there and we were having all the roasts, everything you said, Doug. And, you know, and you were a 3-course meal as well. So we were eating and I was just wanting, you know, and you just want salad or something light because it's so hot. Yeah. And it's because they were British as well. They'd moved over there. So basically we were replicating this Northern Hemisphere.
That's exactly what happens.
Yeah.
So did you ever get an Aussie sort of Christmas? Because we do a lot of like cold meats, cold salads.
No.
That's what I do Christmas Day. We do the Christmas Eve traditional, and Christmas Day is exactly that. The cold salads, platters, cheese, really just relaxing and sensible.
Meanwhile, I'm stuffing my face with Yorkshire puddings and lots of mash. And so... Yeah, we all know when we have one hot day in Britain, you don't eat stuff like that. But is this going away from Doctor Who as a concept? No, I don't see the link between Doctor Who and Christmas tinsel. I think it's forced, and it's just as bad as seeing an Aussie day when it's boiling and you're trying to replicate a Northern Hemisphere Christmas. Peter Harrington here says, Christmas Carol I thought was a lovely play on the Dickens story. It was a clever idea. Obviously, I've taught Christmas Carol for 30 years. I feel as I can see every little kind of clue in it. But Left-Handed Jedi says, is the Doctor going to be the bellboy in it? I hope on the race front they don't do all this nonsense. We've got Peter Harrington, who's joined us, but he says, hasn't Moffat done it in a sort of hotel in the God complex? Your fear in every room.
That's I was trying to think of the title.
Yeah.
Bring back Soldy.
Yeah. So,
that's it. That's on.
Now, Yokai 63.
Had the Nyman in it.
Yeah, that's it.
Yokai 63. I've never understood the connection between Christmas and Doctor Who. I mean, why? Surely Halloween would be a much better fit. Apart from the Feast of Stephen, I've not enjoyed any of the Christmas specials. I honestly haven't either. I think the Christmas Invasion was exciting.
Disagree.
Well, I'm trying to be fair. The Christmas Invasion, because it was a regeneration, and we had the flying Christmas tree nonsense in the lounge and all that stuff, and I
love the nonsense.
Can't they just do?
You're a Grinch. You're a Grinch, Brendan.
I'm a Grinch. Well, the sense for you, it does allow this. We're one of those streams where we don't want agreement, because otherwise, why? Eastland Burkholder's more with you, lads. Disagree, Brendan. Mississippi is not cold at Christmas. Might need jacket, t-shirt weather. And of course, we will respectfully disagree with each other. That's life, isn't it? That's as it should be.
No, attack each other.
Yeah, that would have in there. Yeah, send me a floppy email. No. Peter Harrington, Dickensian Frost Fairs would be a lovely feel, but Moffat has visited. Yeah, well, we all know what happened in Thin Ice. It was representation, very different. I mean, the Steve McQueen movie, isn't it? Blitz and the DEI, and that's interesting for Blitz London. I know. I just want to enjoy a Christmas episode. If you're going to do one of Doctor Who, but if you're going to do all these other little kind of messages, I kind of come out of the plot. Can't help it. Sorry, lads.
You are right. You are right.
David Harding. Oh, David, I'm so aggrieved that we didn't meet when me and Jamie were in Toronto. Even here in Toronto, it's rare that we get a right Christmas now. But I will say, David Harding and the lads, I have got 100 video segments of our Who Pets visiting Toronto, Niagara, New York. And the Dalek headquarters. Wow. And yeah, I've given a sneak view into Doug of the Dalek headquarters, and Toronto people will recognize it. Fantastic. It looked like a Thunderbirds, didn't it?
Yeah, it looked great.
So, the Christmas specials, Stephen Moffat. Okay, I've said it now. They bore me rigid. Now, lads, just to finish off, now we're detoxed. I'm now going to tox you up so much it's going to be unreal. He also said this, Stephen Moffat, that he left the role of Doctor Who showrunner because of the amount of hate he received. The amount of hate you get could down 3 passenger jets. I mean, seriously, it doesn't stop. I was vilified endlessly. I was labelled a homophobe, a misandrist, a misanthrope, sexist, misogynist, and racist.
That was just what RTD called him.
Yeah, just to get the job, yeah. And then he says, I could only be described as an omni-bigot because I was treating everyone equally. When Moffat chose Chris Chibnall as his successor, he joked with him, "How would you like me to ruin your life?" Fully aware that absolutely everything you say or do would be wrong.
Boo-hoo.
But there is an element in this. I mean, you know, you can hear the screeching of brakes in our debates, but I suppose the angle I was looking at as well is there is a lot of toxicity and division in fandom, which I can just see on the outside. And I wouldn't like to be the showrunner. And that's why I struggle with being able, you know, some streams who will just rant. I can't just crucify people because there has to be something in it where they either have a passion for the program. Yes, they might have a political passion too. I don't think anyone should be getting crucified or attacked in such a personal way. I don't. I really don't. I strugel with that. I've spent 30 years as a teacher.
But there'd be a difference. So let's face it, both RTD and Moffat ran between 5 and 7 years apiece in terms of successful Doctor Who. They both had good long tenures of successful Doctor Who. And of course, there were people with mixed opinions on every episode. But I can tell you now, when the show's heading in the upward direction, I'm sure you're not too. That stuff's water off a duck's back. But when the show's on the decline, and you're not able to pull up, or you're not willing to pull up, or whatever the reason is, you're not able to rescue it, then all of this stuff is obviously going to come in and start to get inside your brain, isn't it?
The thing is, I've got to be honest, and I think me and Boomer Doug have discovered this. We have our own little tiny channels, and people give you feedback, and you can't guarantee what the feedback will be. I mean, everybody remembers in our house Christmas Day last year, funnily enough. It wasn't the blooming episode we were brewing about. At the Christmas table, remember, Sensphere started around December the 16th. So we did the Giggle review. And suddenly, you know, I was learning. I didn't even know I could manage a thread. I didn't know anything really. I just, you know, I was just doing this. And suddenly people were giving you feedback, which, let's be honest, overall is lovely. And people are so supportive. Lovely little community. And I know, Boomer Doug, you feel the same.
Except when it's puppets.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
But
yeah, except when
they don't like you.
But on Christmas Day last year, so 2 weeks into, sorry, actually, no, I'm lying. 1 week into this Sensphere start, I had a very, very, very long email thread with an Australian, actually. And at the dining room table, I broke all the rules. I had to keep replying like a typical teacher.
You told me about this, yeah.
And they were being clever ass with me, and I was being clever ass with my language back, going, no, but we're trying to do this, and we're trying to do this.
You engaged. You shouldn't engage.
I engaged. But that's when I have to say I sympathize with Stephen Moffat, RTD, even Chris Chibnall. Of course I do, because there's something in them that wants to do it for the right reasons to a degree. And I know some people are so cynical now that they're going, Brendan, get real. No, I have to believe that there's something in everybody. I'm sorry, I can't go down a pile drive, everybody's evil road. I can't.
No, absolutely not.
And so if Steve, and I know Stephen Moffat is a clever, cheeky, mischievous man, and normally when he's making a serious point, he does a nice touch of exaggeration and that. I'd hate to think he was called all those things, but I do believe if I've had a few little dodgy emails now and again, I can really believe he has. And RTD. And but I don't think you'd do it. I mean, Doug, I know in a different world, if you were, I know you're a good skilled artist, but if you were a writer by trade, knowing what you know about this online world, would you ever, if you were offered the job of showrunner, would you do it?
No. It would. Oh, no, I think I'd have a nervous breakdown. Particularly something like Doctor Who. Everybody's so passionate, and I think the passion, unfortunately, manifests itself in a lot of strong emotion, which sometimes comes across as hatred. And it's, I've really noticed the toxicity since the 60th anniversary, particularly, and I've been really surprised, if I'm honest, about how venomous some of the comments are and how personal. It's a bit sad. I just love my little show. That's all I want to do is watch my little show.
Yeah, I always think play the ball, not the man. You know,
Yeah, exactly.
I try and argue about the script. I try and argue about the effect. I try and argue about the narrative.
You're very fair. You're very fair, to give you credit. Your shows are very fair and very balanced. And I think, long before I knew you, Sense Sphere was a really good title because you talk sense and you're very balanced. Whereas there are some channels that they tend to focus on the negative, and I understand why. But there are two sides to every story and two sides to every coin. And I think, play the ball, not the man. Absolutely.
Yeah, you try. I mean, I don't know that. And the thing is, there's no way. Some people want me to go a bit more on a vent. But the truth is, how can I just dislocate from 30 years of being a teacher and head of year in charge of kids and stopping bullying and everything? If I suddenly, without knowing the person, just pile drive in and just slag off everything about that person, it would break the chemistry in my head.
Do you know what though? Like, I would never, as much as I don't like certain aspects of the show, I wouldn't go and stick it to RTD or Moffat or whatever. But to be fair though, when they get, I've never really seen this from Moffat. I think he's pretty cool, calm character from this perspective. But I mean, RTD has gone out there and stuck his middle finger up at people, and he's basically asked for it. And if you go on shows and start like Unleashed and start preaching the world of RTD, then man, you basically deserve what you get.
No, you make a good point. While I try and say, look, I'm trying to hold a line, I do think there has been provocative and triggering interviews that have hardly settled fandom down, and they're almost
deliberately provocative. Brendan, do you think it's been deliberately provocative? It sounds sometimes like he has been. What do you think?
Yes, I think one of my early saloons I need to come back to one day and actually just pull some of the interview back up where RTD did sound like, because he's sounding much more overly political. And obviously it's deliberately, look, we've just had the presidential election in America where a lot of us as observers have seen that you saw a country go really binary, very binary. It was either Hitler or the savior of the human race. It was really kind of
extreme, wasn't it?
It was extremely out there, and therefore the hyperbole had gone so far beyond. There was no evidence to back it up. It was just absolute nonsense. And I think most of our country's liberal democracies are falling into this kind of hyper language just to make a point, but then once you've won your case, you can't heal the deal. So basically, you've got everybody, half the country fired up, half the fandom fired up, and the other half angry. So it doesn't work anymore. You're not pulling it together. I was hoping RTD with the 3 specials, then and continue, would just try and go establish Doctor Who for what Doctor Who's famous for, play safe to a degree, and just get it running again, and that would heal. And then, if we didn't have Star Beast with the pronouns and the female presenting Time Lord, it may have passed. If we didn't have Isaac Newton as an Asian, it might have passed. We might have just bedded in Doctor Who again. That's more reuniting. But where I do have an issue with RTD, which is what you're saying, Dan, is he is deliberately trying to be controversial. So therefore, you're not going to heal.
Yeah, but also, he as a showrunner, he's gotten on social media and gotten political and then made comments. As soon as you get political, you're immediately alienating 50% of the audience. Yeah, statistically.
Exactly.
Your goal should be to have the biggest audience and have everyone in on it. You should be, if you're show running, if you're doing anything in the public eye, you should be saying nothing that splits any kind of audience. You should be walking a line. I would argue we shouldn't even know what your politics are, other than, possibly what's in your writing, because there's nothing to be gained by splitting your audience.
I prefer the Malcolm Hulk approach, which is you show the different politics of the different characters, but you give them a saving grace. They are not ultimately evil. And I think that's a kinder approach. Everybody on their profile says be kind. It's a kinder approach to actually have a character who you give them, it might be a misintention, but you can see why they have that intention. You can see, something happened to them when they were younger. To me, that's more realistic. Every bully I had in my school office had a sob story and something bad had happened in their life. They weren't evil. They were kids who had issues. And that's surely what a good program, any program, should be replicating. That if it's a cop-out to say somebody's evil. I don't like that path in Doctor Who.
Yeah, it's like calling everyone Nazis. Once you use that, once you go to that extreme of language, you've lost the argument. You've lost the argument. You're not even in the debate anymore.
Yeah. And it's when I've accused all media of shorthand now, instead of actually trying to say, right, there's nuance, there's subtlety, there's complexity. We're actually bright enough to deal with it, But as I said to you both about the Blinovich limitation effect has now become timey wimey dialogue. We can't cope. Blinovich limitation effect was kind of burned into my head as a kid. Like, what's that? And, it sounded great. And of course, when we talk about kids are struggling to read and concentrate because of online social media and everything, and I know you Labour people, there's in Australia, there's an interesting policy they're proposing that anybody under 16 shouldn't have access to online social media.
Yes, my nieces and nephews are talking about this at the moment. And I think it's a real, it shows an out of touchness, because a lot of kids today, their whole world of interaction after school or whatever is online. And especially you're talking about a generation that you're locked up for 4 years, guys. So you've kind of created this dependency.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Kids, you're not allowed out. You're not allowed to do anything, but you've got a phone. So they had access to the world while they were
stuck in high density living now.
Yeah.
You don't have your houses with your backyards anymore.
No, you make a very good point. This is all sci-fi concept. This is the whole thing that should be written.
It's Paradise Towers.
Yeah. Now, just great debate, and let's just see what we've got left. But Rachel, there's a lot of toxicity in the industry alone, and she will know as an actress, and that's why we love her on. Clearly, it didn't ruin his life, or he wouldn't be back. It's how you react that can create issues. Doesn't mean it's right, though. So you see, that's Rachel giving another viewpoint. Yes. Yeah, you can't have a thin skin in the industry. I'm sure every actor and actress doesn't like to read reviews. Let's be honest. That's something that they always say. But he did come back. He knew what he was doing, I suppose, is a good point from Rachel there. But obviously, I will like praise when I see it. Eastland Burkholder says, I like Brendan's puppets. Ray! Well, we're doing a puppet show. I've just done the very first. I've just done the first one where the puppets interview one panelist. And we're stockpiling them up. And I'm trying to make it as much like the Muppets as possible. And of course, Cybermat Strikes, we are gunning for you. We're daring you to come on. Oh, yeah. You'll have to have a thick skin that day.
Well, we'll see.
Yeah, this is what we should do. You see, when you come onto our show, when it's the puppets asking you about why you love Doctor Who, and it's kind of wham bam, thank you, man, it's dead fast. You don't see me or Jamie at all. You just come straight on and you see the puppets. So basically, you can only communicate with the puppets. Yeah. So we're trying to destabilize you and really unsettle you. So Dan.
Was it like Statler and Waldorf?
Yeah, well, I'll tell you what, if we were ever in that company, yeah, it's only us two. We're trying our best. I wish we had talent, but Eastland Burkholder, we're going to try. Peter Harrington, story with a message.
That's terrifying. That's terrifying.
Yeah, Doug, I'll get you on with.
Reminds me of an episode of, what was it, Angel? Angel had an episode where they all turned into Muppets or something. It's very scary.
Well, you see, the giggle, I keep saying the giggle had a moment when Donna Noble was surrounded by puppets.
Yes, that was terrifying.
Yeah, that was the best bit to me as a thrill. Yeah, and that man, Mr. Chatterjee, who was turned into a wooden puppet.
Yeah, that was nightmare stuff. More of that, please.
Exactly, but don't turn him back at the end. Don't do a reset. He's dead. He's dead.
No. Let him die properly.
My Doctor Who twin, Peter Harrington, says story with a message built in, not the other way around. And he also has his concentration was, Sherlock. Far too much to do. Yeah. We all know that period was difficult with Stephen Moffat because we had a split season 7, didn't we?
That being said, though, you go back, I know people, there were some ups and downs there, but there's still... right till the very end, there's some really good Doctor Who in there. That era is Shakespeare on rewatch when, by today's standards.
Yeah. Era, I think, of New Who. Yeah. Moffat's definitely my favourite New Who era.
You see, this is an interesting argument. Tom Norton, hello. I love Moffat, but he should never have returned after Thrice Upon a Time. Doctor Who is dead. Moffat should have left his legacy intact. It is a danger. It is a real danger coming back. It's not a cliche for no reason at all.
It's like sorry. Sorry.
No. I mean, come in a minute. But basically, I was going to say, in one way, I applaud your bravery for coming back because they know their legacy is in danger. Of course they do, but they're coming back maybe through passion of Doctor Who. So I applaud their bravery in doing that because it would be easy to stay away and just say, nope, my legacy's there. But of course, there's a risk. Go on, Dan. What were you saying?
No, well. He mentions there Moffat should have left his legacy intact. And this is the thing that annoys me about R2D and Moffat and even Chibnall to some degree. It's like you guys have had custody of the program for 20 years now.
Yep, a third of the program.
Your legacy should have been your successors. I have to train my successors. My promotion depends on the people that I build up around me as I go up the ladder. Why isn't there a next generation of people that are running this show by now? It shouldn't be relying on a couple of people.
No, it's too big for that. And I think people have to stop being so kind of, a lot of 2024 is about pretending. And RTD, a bit of honesty to say he doesn't have that many sci-fi ideas left. I think I would grant him that because he wrote 4 series of Doctor Who and most of them were good. And so he said in the writer's tale he had no more sci-fi ideas left. And so I have no problem with him maybe being there for the showrunner who understands what Doctor Who is and he has a big overview. I just think it's overstretched. So when you get silly ideas like Sutek sleeping on a TARDIS for 50 years, you think, I'm sorry, but that doesn't hold any water at all.
Not at all.
David Hardin, who I now know is in Toronto, so I'll have to go back and visit him. In some weird way, that's the beauty of a live stream like this one. We get our frustrations out, detox, using humor.
Yeah.
I hope so. So we're not sending nasty, hate-filled. Actually, David Hardin, you've kind of summed up why I do the detox, to be quite honest.
And thank you.
I'm not baiting or trying to be half clever. No, it is a detox. It's supposed to be. That's why it's at this time of day as well. Cringeworthy, good to see you again, Sydney Rough Diamond. Simon Anthony still with us as Mr. Contrarian. Politics should be based on reality, not personal choice. This is why I'm agreeing. I will talk to you soon, Simon, don't worry. Anthony Parkinson, who has been toxing us all night. I would imagine RTD filed all audience letters in the bin since he came back. It might be good advice to do that, though, as well. You know, I mean... he'll have a few PAs, won't he? Cosmic Toy Man. I don't allow my kids onto social media. 13-year-old twins. They are sponges at this age, and I'm not letting the woke mob infect them. And I think that's the fear. I've talked to so many parents about this, and it's interesting that some parents who are trying not to be, you know, like the thought police, so that they're allowing so many hours a day on social media, etc., or it's supervised. But then you have Doctor Who doing Star Beast, and come on, everybody has to be responsible. What a village brings up a child. That's what they say, isn't it? A whole village brings up a child, and the media has to be. You know, you can do your messaging later. You can do your serious stuff, but honestly, can we just bring up kids to be safe? And when it's, as I call it, unsettled issues, it shouldn't be in the plot of the program. It shouldn't. No, so I understand your frustration, Cosmic Toy Man, big time. Eastland, I've got a big fan here. Puppets as interviewers, please. Well, we could get you on, mate. I mean, just email us. You don't have to be seen if you don't want to be seen. Some people don't want to be seen, but we can interview you. So there we go. So just to say, we do feel for these people to a degree. But as Rachel quite rightly said, we need to be careful, as in they know what they're doing. And less provocative, triggering interviews might have helped ease their way back in if they were bothered. But as a conclusion, don't you find, though, and you saw it with the American elections, since they're just the most topical and recent, that one side of the argument says, but we're right. So we actually don't care for your side of the opinion. So we're not going to listen to you. So basically, I feel as though as a Doctor Who fan, I'm on that side where they're saying, you're wrong now. This is how it should be shown. This is diversity. This is representation. This is this. This is that. This is an emotional doctor, a gay doctor, this, that. You're wrong. And it's like there's no meeting of the halfway here. They don't go, I know you've been watching Doctor Who since you were 3. You do know what you're talking about, but we're just trying to experiment with this. They don't talk like that. They kind of go, no, this has always been the case. You're wrong. Get out. And that seemed to be how the talk was in America.
You see it in the media over there. The after the election, a lot of the mainstream media are sitting there just stunned. They're desperately trying to figure out how they were so off the mark with the American people. And it's like, well, because you've taken an ideological position and you've been out of touch with your audience and you're not listening. And if you start your discussion with people, like I have no doubt that if you sat down with Malcolm Hulk, for instance, or whatever, not even knowing the guy, but just knowing through his writing and the intelligence in his writing, I'm sure that if he was a raving lefty communist, which I don't know if he was, but he sounds like he might have been.
He was a socialist, wasn't he?
Yeah, socialist. Well, okay, so, but if you sat down and I have no doubt that he could have an intellectual meeting of the minds with someone with opposing views.
Yeah, I mean, and I'll get Michael Herbert back on. The thing is, to be a communist, then I mean, I have to say the world has changed so much that you know, you wonder what his politics would have been now. Would it have been kind of middle of the road? You know, I mean, I really wonder, because there's nothing in his writing that tells you something terribly revolutionary.
Well, and you used to love. I love meeting people where you can. Those people that do want to have the intellectual argument with you on those sorts of things. But you know, there seems to be this like they've even had commentators over there saying, you know, if you've got family members that didn't vote your way, you know, you shouldn't go home and see your family for Christmas. It's like, are you insane? That is the dumbest. Like that is such an immature headspace to be in.
What's fascinating is that the one side of the argument that is trying to win the argument on how we should treat people who have a view and cancel them, and you know, the whole thing going on. And what they're doing is they're living a sci-fi concept, a dystopian future. You know, I say to the kids, without having to go into detail, 1984, you read 1984 and you look outside that window, because we've got the thought police, haven't we? We've got thought crime. We've got people saying, stitch up, grass up your parents. You know, Hitler had the Hitler Youth. We've now got people saying that. You've got a whole dystopian sci-fi going on now. And yet the people who are writing our program and others are not seeing that they're part of it. They're not seeing it.
Well, we're still down here, down under. We're still heading down a very dangerous path at the moment with this misinformation bill that's coming out at the moment. And what's really bothering, I think, most of us, is that both sides of politics seem to be interested in almost unilaterally trying to censor the internet, which, you know, is just insane. But the sorts of things that we saw crept into the US politics is, and probably, I don't know what the situation is with Keir Starmer, but we're probably seeing a bit of that here, where we're going to have, you can see, we just had our ex-prime minister, who's the US ambassador. He's been caught with he's deleted all his social media posts in the last week, where since 21, he's been mouthing off about Donald Trump, saying that he's intellectually devoid and he's a village idiot and things like this. And he's the bloody US ambassador. And we're saying, well, mate, you probably need to stand down and resign.
It's going to be there much longer.
Oh, mate. And they're now starting up, it's a News Corp. We need a Royal Commission into News Corp. This is all misinformation.
Well, see, I'm doing a classic review of State of Decay soon with some of the other lads. And if you think of the Crotons, there's two good old Doctor Who stories where it's the good old sci-fi trope of keep your population badly educated, make them thick, and you can rule them, you can oppress them. And the arguments about who owns X, who owns this, who owns that, who owns the media streams into people's heads, seems to be kind of, you know, we're living this now. We're living the Doctor Who dystopia now. Watch State of Decay, everybody. Everybody's kind of unable to learn, not allowed to be educated so the vampires can do what they want. Look at the Crotons. A bright person is taken into the Crotons and your mind is absorbed with them, and the rest of them are just thickos. This is what's going on. Go and read Henry Slessor's 4-page examination day, where at the age of 12, kids are examined. They're given a truth serum, and once they've actually therefore passed or failed their exam, if you've passed, you are executed. And it was a kid's 12th birthday, and the parents are looking at each other and they can't say anything because the kid has to go through this. You know, come on, this is what's going on. So we've got the blurring of reality and what we all thought was a great Doctor Who story, but it's happening in front of us.
And I don't want to imitating art.
I don't want to be in the diner trope. I don't want to be one of those Croton failures. I don't want to be one of those kind of thickos in State of Decay. Excuse me. I do want access to education.
Yes, I agree.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. It is a real worrying. It's worrying when you can recognize things that have been in your art and your textbooks and your novels, and you're starting to see it play out in real life, and it's really disturbing.
Well, and I've brought it back to Doctor Who, but we've really gone over it, and I've really enjoyed this chat, and the thread certainly has. In fact, they've stuck with us. So just to round off, Paul Richards, RTD blocked my cousin on Instagram for simply saying that Davros isn't technically in a wheelchair. I know there's a tin-eared effect. Cosmic Toy Man, who's stuck with us. I have a collected toy shop in the UK. Oh, write to us. I'd love to know where. I'd come and visit you. I see first. Yeah, I'd love to. Please, Cosmic Toy Man, Gmail, please. I see firsthand how people have reacted to the changes in Doctor Who over recent years. Interesting, nobody has asked for a 15th Doctor figure, but I sell plenty of classics, and I might come and buy some. Please email us, mate. SG.
Any online presence?
SG, please. Look out for our classic review. Oh, I love the ending of State of Decay when the three who ruled. Spoilers. No.
I spoiled.
Yeah. Eastland Burkholder, we need classically defined tolerance for diverse viewpoints and political stances. Yeah. I think the discourse in our world, we call ourselves democracies, but no democracy has been applied really. It's really getting bent and twisted. I'll be honest about it. It's very dystopian.
Actually, I don't know if you've been paying attention to Elon Musk's with Twitter, with the Twitter files and all that.
There's a lot leaving, aren't there? On the left.
Well, yeah, but they'll be back because they need the people.
Well, all the Hollywood stars are leaving America. They said they would.
Yeah, well, but the thing that amazes me is that, like, Elon's been very transparent about the problem. So how do you find the right people to curate this sort of thing? Because it goes bad no matter. I mean, I think he's tried it in numerous ways, and basically his solution now is just open source the algorithm, basically, so that everyone can see how stuff is graded and rated and amplified and things like, so you can actually see behind the curtain of how the sausage is made, I guess. But it's really interesting because the people that you would say could curate these sorts of things are people that are unlikely to want to do it anyway, and the people that would want to do it are probably not qualified to be doing it because they'd become activists.
Yeah.
So they become corrupt.
There's been some fantastic chat tonight, and it's one of those reasons why I sometimes like to let this go. If everybody's enjoyed it and hasn't subscribed, please let me do a reminder for you. Please spread the word. Even if you have subscribed, tell a friend. Please, it'd be fantastic. I sound like Trump now, who says get 10 supporters to vote for you. I'm not saying. I'm just saying. Please, help us advertise, because I feel as though the people I'm getting on are giving us quality debate, and it'd be nice to see that happening. Really, yeah. Now, Boomer Dog, you've got your own little channel as well. So do you want to just give us a shout out for that?
Yeah, in about 15 minutes, I've got a video dropping about that classic movie, The Great Escape, with Steve McQueen and James Garner. So that's worth a look if anyone's interested. It's one of my favourites.
Boomer Doug, yes. Great Escape is, and I saw you having I won't go into it now, but you had a good discussion with Divine and Dragon about the ending. And the possible sequel, was that you were saying?
It was talked about apparently, but it's never happened.
Yeah. Well, it's late in Australia, but I have thoroughly enjoyed it. I was knackered before I did today. We've got a Sunday show at 6 p.m, everybody. I will be here live, even though I'm going away, so I will be back. So it's a live show. Don't you worry. You can have the thread open. I got told off last week, Doug and Dan, because I'd recorded a show and I'd forgotten to press the button, because you do, you're rushing. And Brendan, it was a political show and we couldn't put our comments down. How dare you? And I'm thinking, it was a mistake. It was a mistake. But anyway, I'll be live this week, so no excuses from me. Thank you, Doug, and thank you, Dan. I've really enjoyed that, and I think the thread has too. Fun. Okay, then. Well, good night to you too. Good night to Australia down under.
See you guys.
See you guys.
I won't have to